First Amendment is so important. It ensures that we can speak freely without fear or retribution. The press has the responsibility to inform the public, even when the truth isn't always popular. The freedom to criticize the government and bring attention to critical issues is what keeps a democracy strong. If we can't report the truth, then we lose every foundation of our rights. Exactly. And when the government makes decisions that can harm the planet or people's futures, it's our job to shed light, and whether it's popular or not, we can't just stay quiet.
Alright, I get it. We have to keep our report, but make sure it's well researched. We don't want to make accusations we can't back up.
The beauty of the First Amendment. As long as we're reporting facts, we're doing our job, and it's protected by the law.
And in the end, that's what matters, giving people the truth so they can make informed decisions.
Skid 2. Without the protection of the First Amendment, freedom of press.
Piece on how the new president is rolling back the electric vehicle mandate and pushing for more oil rigs. I think it's a dangerous move for both us and the future generations. People should know that.
I agree.
But you can't do that. The new government has placed restrictions on criticizing them, and publishing that would be a violation of the law.
What? That's ridiculous. We can't just sit back and let the government control what we say.
It's not that simple anymore. Under the new government policy, anything that goes against their agenda, especially regarding environmental plans, is considered criminal prey. The freedom of press is strong because of national security measures.
But we're journalists. It's our job to report the truth, to hold the government accountable. The First Amendment gave us that right. We can't just be silent while they make harmful decisions.
Exactly. But now we're stuck. The government has been shutting down the publications that don't comply with their narrative. They even started to monitor reporters. If we push back, they'll shut us down or arrest us. This is a blatant attack of freedom of speech.
No, but we have no choice to follow the rules. It's important to keep our jobs. It's not safe to write anything that might be critical anymore.
How are we supposed to keep the public informed if we can't report on the things that matter? There's silencing.
And that's the point, isn't it? By taking away our freedom of press and controlling what the people hear. It's not just an attack on journalists, it's an attack on democracy.
This isn't over. The truth always finds a way out. We can't let them shut us up for good.
One day the people will see what's happening, and when they do, they'll know who was willing to stand up for them, even if it was dangerous.
And importance of the First Amendment.
The First Amendment, particularly the freedom of press, is crucial because it ensures that people can express their opinions without the power economy. Without this right, people will voice criticism, report the truth, or share diverse perspectives, which are vital to the health of democracy. If the press criticizes the government or expose wrongdoing, the government will not be able to review or respond to any of these issues. To corruption and unchecked power. The freedom of press allows for transparency, informed citizens, and active dialogue, which are essential for a society that strives to grow and evolve. Okay.
Your time, and thank you guys for all showing up and the awesome stuff we did. It was incredible, so I really appreciate it.
I just want to say that was fantastic. Thank you all for your thoughtfulness and just, that was great. That was like, I'm kind of speechless. So thank you for sharing that.
Good reminder to all of us.
Right?
Just want to say that you all did amazing, and it was so great to see this. I would wish I had this when I was in school, something fun like this. I included multimedia. And I definitely know how nerve-wracking it can be to talk in front of all these people. I saw some of y'all trying to hide, but I just want to say that you guys are doing great work, and keep it up.
Yeah, I agree with my colleagues. You guys were awesome. There was like humor, there was great acting, there was great visuals, there was awesome writing, and I was a history minor, and I love government and I love democracy, and I just could not be more happy to see you guys learning and doing such awesome active thinking about our Constitution, about the Bill of Rights. It's amazing, awesome. So thank you, and thank you so much for coming tonight and showing us your work. This is like, I know it's a crowd and everything, and it's really great to see you.
I second third all of what has been said, and the timeliness. Well, I guess it couldn't be more timely, and what's going on in our country at this time. So I appreciate you bringing that out, and it's good to hear that y'all are learning our Constitution. It's very important. As I said to my trustee next to me, this is a little scary. This is very, very real. So I appreciate you bringing it out, you saying it, but also that you know this, and hopefully you live that. Thank you very much.
One more comment.
One more comment.
Student comment.
I really appreciate you guys coming out today, and I think you guys will be great additions to the high school campus come next year. You guys have a lot to say, a lot of important things to say, so thank you guys for coming out.
Families and students, feel free to be on with your night. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks, Ms. Barclay.
Thank you. All right, moving on to item number 9, public comments on non-agenda items. Do we have any? All right. Approval to the consent agenda. Do I have a motion?
I move we approve the consent agenda.
I second.
All right. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Seeing none. Okay. Moving on to 11.1, school business. As you know, this is opening up the public hearing, right, for the area map. So we will now convene a public hearing to receive public testimony concerning proposed trustee voting area plans associated with the district's transition to a by-trustee area election system. Under California Election Code Section 110, the board must hold at least 2 public hearings prior to holding a public hearing to adopt the final trustee voting area plan. And I believe we have a presentation.
That's correct. Hi, this is Brandon. Is divided into 5 separate trustee areas. Only the individuals from each of those trustee areas will elect their own representative, but that's not to be confused with the fact that all board members still represent the entire district. Keep in mind that based on national demographics population data that we found, that each of the trustee areas is going to have, the total population of the district is 16,070 people, so each trustee area will have approximately 3,203 people. The difference, the allowable difference between the largest and smallest trustee areas will be about 320 people because the CVRA allows for a maximum of 10% variance between the largest and the smallest. The census blocks, as we can see, will vary significantly in shape and size and also in population totals. So the census blocks are also not allowed to be split, and really we're looking at important areas to keep together, and that's what we're getting feedback from the public here today, is communities of interest and also important areas that should be kept together. I'll turn it over to Doug to address the district's demographics.
Thank you. And yes, as you can see on the screen, and as Brandon mentioned, the total population according to the census is just over 16,000. So that's the number we use to get the number of people per trustee area. And you can see in the total population numbers there, Latinos are just under a third, and the NH is not. Oh, NH is non-Hispanic. So the non-Hispanic white population is just over 60%. And then the remainder is a mix of other ethnicities and races. We go to the next slide. Oh, yeah, there we go. So, and for those who have been following along and looking at the details provided for the maps already, there's a lot of data that we provide. I won't go through this entire thing. One thing that is notable, though, is I just mentioned that Latinos are 31% of the total population. When we look at Voting Rights Act compliance and the Voting Rights Act side of this puzzle, we focus more on the citizen voting age population, because that's your eligible voter population. And there, Latinos or Hispanics drop down to 17%, and non-Hispanic whites go to 78%. And so it's no surprise, in none of these maps do we get a majority Latino trustee area, where Latinos are only 17% of the eligible voters across the whole district. And then the rest of the data is provided just for your reference and for those who are interested in those in some key elements. So, and you can see on here that it's a little unusual when we have a jurisdiction like this one where there's a large rural area and then most of the population is in the city. You can see the color coding by census block, but those rural census blocks don't have many people in them. So even though we have a couple of census blocks that are 75% or above out in the rural area, those are not really going to impact the demographics of the trustee area just because there aren't enough people. Where we really get numbers of people that, no surprise to any of you, is in the city. And there we do get a slight concentration, at least more than other parts of the district, along the freeway, along the 101. And we don't get any geographic concentrations of Asian Americans, African Americans, or Native Americans, who are the other three protected classes in the voting Act. Brandon, you're still muted.
All right, so I'm going to take back over for a couple slides. Thanks for letting me know, Doug. The current step that we're on is in the drafting map stage. So for those of you that have joined us for the past couple meetings, there was the pre-map stage where we had 2 public hearings to kind of solicit input from the community. Now we're looking at specific maps that have been produced. I believe there's about 5 options that have been produced, and we're looking specifically at those maps and still soliciting feedback from the community about what you like, what you don't like, and that's essentially the purpose of this map stage. So the demographer has used the 2020 census data and additionally permitted data to create these maps. Important to note that population must be as equal as it's practicable, looking at people, not necessarily citizens. And the education code also requires that the trustee areas be as nearly as equal in population, and again, looking at that 10% maximum variation between the largest and the smallest trustee areas. Criteria for consideration, so these are things that Doug and his team look at when we're drawing these specific maps. Of course, importantly, is complying with the U.S. Constitution, also with the California Constitution. Another important thing that we've mentioned a few times here today is population balance. So keeping each area nearly as equal of inhabitants. Also complying with the Federal Voting Rights Act, so not just the CVRA, but also the FVRA. Also determining whether it's possible to create an election district which has a minority group that is sufficiently large and geographical compact to be a majority in a single member district. It sounds like that wasn't possible in this case for the reasons that Doug described. Now, with the introduction of Assembly Bill 764, there's now an order of priority that we have to look at. It used to be to just look at all of these things, but now the order of priority are that the areas be contiguous, that there be local neighborhoods and communities of interest, looking at the city and census designated places, artificial and natural boundaries, geographical compactness, and then also considering other local considerations, things that people who live in the area might know that perhaps myself and the team at National wouldn't necessarily know. What areas might make sense to keep together. But it's also important to know that it's now not possible or it's not permissible to adopt boundaries for the purpose of favoring or discriminating against an incumbent, political candidate, or political party. So the maps need to be created without looking at those things. All right, so now we turn to the map options, and Doug, if you want to take over from here.
Sure. Yeah. So as we walk through these, each map has a color code naming just to have a naming scheme. And we'll walk through, we have a number of maps here to look at. So let's jump in the next slide. The green map that you can see, and first we'll have a zoomed out map, and then the next slide we'll have a more detailed look at the city portion of the map. So you can see in the green map we have the rural area all unified in one trustee area, which shown in pink here is trustee area 1. And then the other 4 are concentrated much more around the city. 2 is a mix of city and just on the edge of the city population. And then 3, 4, and 5 are almost entirely in the city. Also, you'll see on each of these maps the proposed sequencing. We can come back to that. This is when each trustee area will be up for election. That'll really get nailed down once we pick a map. But just the key thing to note is the current cycle will continue. So currently you have 2 seats up in 2026. So there will be 2 trustee areas up in 2026. And you have 3 seats up in 2028, so there will be 3 trustee areas up in 2028. So we'll go to the next slide for green here. Now you can see we have a very compact set of trustee areas in the city. Really a north, kind of a west central, and a south, 3, 4, and 5. And then that corridor between the freeway and the railroad, which has been discussed a couple of times in the earlier hearings, that is united the entire length of the city in trustee area 2. So trustee area 2 is that corridor, and then population just on the other side of the freeway. So we go to the next slide. You can see here, this is a excerpt from that full demographic sheet that's been posted on the web back when these maps were posted a week ago. And highlighted on here is you can see that Hispanic or Latino percentage of citizen voting age population. In this case, trustee areas 2 and 4 are essentially the same at 26 to 27%. Keep in mind as you look at the citizen voting age percentage numbers, these are from a survey that the Census Bureau does, so there is a margin of error of a few percent. So 26 versus 27 is essentially the same. That's the green map. The orange map obviously takes a very different approach to the rural areas, with area 1 in the west and area 2 in the east. Area 1 is actually everything from the freeway west, and then it does have to cross a little bit to get more population for the equal population requirement. So north of the city and south of the city does cross the freeway, but it's only getting a little bit of population outside of the city. Then again, we have 3, 4, and 5 in the city. Here you can see, because the rural area is divided, of course, they both have to come into the city. As I mentioned area 1, and here you can really see where area 2 gets the northern part of the city, not crossing the railroad tracks, but getting everything over to the railroad tracks. And one of the tricks with these small trustee areas, with just a few thousand people, as we mentioned earlier, is that sometimes we do have to go to the smaller roads in order to get those population numbers that are required. So you can see where 2 and 3 come together, kind of jogging along smaller roads. That's purely for population reasons to get those numbers. That corridor in this map between the railroad and the freeway, in this case is in two pieces. The northern piece is in area 3, and the southern piece is in area 5, and each one crosses over to the east to get more neighborhoods to reach that population number. And then area 4 is when you start to get more up into the cul-de-sacs and hills on the, it's still in the city, and it's entirely in the city, but on the edge of, eastern edge of the city. Go to the next slide. Here you can see essentially identical demographic data. The numbers switch around as the trustee areas move around the map, but we have 2 seats, one at 27%, one at 28%. They're significantly higher than that citywide total of 17%. Okay. Purple map, instead of that east-west split of the rural areas we were just looking at, this one takes more of a north-south division of the rural areas, with both of them crossing over the freeway. One, not a ton, but it does cross over the freeway to the south of the city. And in this case, one really comes into the city on the east side of the freeway, which it has not done in the other maps. And in this case, area 2 is more rural, coming across north of the city and reaching over to the edge of the west side Union Elementary School District. Please get to the next slide. Here you can really see where that area 1 is coming up from the south and getting that southern portion of the city. Area 5 is similar to what area 4 was in the last map of that kind of up in the hills and cul-de-sacs on the eastern side of town. And then 4 is really the center, and 3 gets all the north part of the city here. So you get the piece of the city that extends west of the freeway is in 3, and then the northern piece of the city, it does cross over an incorporated area to pick up that the eastern section there. You can see around Badger, down to Badger Street. And in this case, you get one seat that's 28%, so more of a concentration, and then the other seats are all below 20%. So area 4 in this case is the most heavily Latino seat in this one. The teal map is a completely different approach. Just at a glance, you can see that. What this map does is it comes from some feedback that we received about what if we took a quadrants approach? If we had 4 trustee areas, one that started in each corner, kind of northeast, northwest, southeast, southwest, and then came into the city. Now, as you can see some odd shapes that come from those are following census blocks. So that portion of 2 that comes down into what looks like the middle of 5, that's a giant census block that actually stretches from the bottom of that piece of 2 all the way over to the railroad tracks. And so that all has to stay together, which is the reason for that unusual shape. But there's not a lot of people out there, as I mentioned. So we're getting these 4 seats coming into the middle, and that gives each one of them a blend of rural population and what do we call Healdsburg urban, but relatively urban population here. So 2 is coming into the northeast, we're getting the north part of town. 1 is coming from the northwest and getting that freeway to the railroad corridor down to Mill Street. 4 is coming from the southwest and getting that southern portion of town, including that the railroad corridor south of Mills. And then 5 is coming up from the southeast and coming up into that eastern portion of town. The only one that's the exception, because we have 4 quadrants, is then 3 is really the core of the city and very compact centered in the city. If we go to the next slide, you can see that ends up, no surprise, with 3 being the most Latino seat. Although 1 is also, because it has that freeway section, freeway corridor section in there, and it's also at 24%. There's 2 seats that are over 20%, with 3 being the most concentrated. And then our final map to look at is this one. Instead of trying to come in from the 4 quadrants, you saw the idea worked in the last map, but it looks a little unusual. In this case, there are 3 seats blending rural and city population. So 1 gets that northern stretch all the way across the length of the district. and then 2 and 5 pick up the southern portion of the district's rural population. And then we come into the city, the next slide. And here you can see, again, we've got 3 entirely in the city. 4 gets most of that freeway to the railroad corridor. And it also gets the area around North Street, that area in the center of town. 5, it wraps around 4 because we're trying not to divide that railroad to the freeway corridors. We're keeping that community together, which is why we had a little bit of wraparound. And so we're keeping the rural portion of 5 together with that kind of up in the hills portion of the city, where we get the cul-de-sacs and more hills setting. And then 2 is coming in, 2 is coming in from the northeast, and it's getting that sort of north central portions of the city. Okay, the next slide. And in this case, we actually get 3 is the highest of any seat in the maps. Although again, remembering that margin of error data I talked about earlier, 31 versus 27 is really within the margin of error, so it's not a significantly higher amount, even though it is the highest percentage, 31%, and trustee area 4 is 26%. So we have this slide where you can really see them all at a glance, and so we can come back to this for the discussion phase. You can look at all of them and reference different maps together if you wish. Then I'll hand it back to you.
All right, thanks, Doug. So, like I mentioned a little bit earlier in the presentation, no matter which map the board selects, that does not change the overall district boundaries. It doesn't change school attendance boundaries, and it does not change how the district is governed in that each board member, regardless of what trust area that they live in, they still owe a fiduciary duty to the entire district to represent the entire district. It's still one district with common goals and common challenges, and it's important that they all work together. All right, so now we'll take a look at the schedule. As I said, there were the dates here in gray that were pre-map public hearing 1 and public hearing 2. We also had the map public hearing 1, and then today this is map public hearing 2, and then in a couple weeks we'll have the final map public hearing, which will also include a map adoption process. On the screen now is the district's webpage that includes all of this information. There's a CBRA tab that has all of this information, including the proposed trustee area maps, the resolution, notice of public hearing, majority, minority trustee area analysis, all of the PowerPoint presentations, and the other notices of public hearing as well. All right, and then there's also an interactive map tool that's available on the district's website where you can look at all of these different maps, the proposed orange, green, teal, purple, or yellow maps, and then look at that with other overlays, including the counties, the blocks. It just gives you a better idea of each map if anyone is interested in looking at those things and how they interplay with one another. This is just another shot from the interactive map tool. And I think that takes us to the end of the presentation, and we'll open it up for questions or comments.
All right, thank you so much. As part of this public hearing, members of the public may submit comments on the establishment of voting area boundaries for the new trustee voting areas that will be established as part of the district's transition from an at-large election system to a by-trustee area election system. Speakers will be given 3 minutes to make comments on this matter, and this matter only. We have received cards from no one. People who wish to address the subject can do so during this hearing.
Anybody want to make a comment, can put a card in still. Si quieren decir algo.
¿Alguien tiene algo que decir? Sin...
Nadie.
O algo.
About trustees.
I have a comment. So I've already said my thoughts on this a number of times, and so maybe I'll just spare everyone here. But I did want to add that through a conversation with a friend who took a close look at the maps, the other thing that was raised, and I don't think this is like necessarily something that would, I just thought it was something good to consider when thinking about the possible map options, is that, you know, there's only a portion of the people that are within the district boundaries who are also within the city of Healdsburg boundaries. And when we look at like cooperation between the city, you know, there are people who just live on the other side of the freeway or just right outside of town and don't get to vote for our city elections, but have a big stake in what's going on with the school and what's going on with, you know, with the city government as well. And so, you know, I just felt like, I don't know that that directly informs any boundary lines, but I did want to say that that's a group of people that are like, I don't want to say they're just less franchised when it comes to what's going on in town, and their vote for city counts for district board members is a way that they do have a little bit more say for what's going on in the community, because the schools are such a big part of, you know, our physical space and, you know, whatever, our community. And anyway, my personal opinion on this is like, I'm liking the orange map, but I am definitely interested in what anybody has to say on this topic, because I do think that it's impossible to not sort of consider myself, even though I'm, you know, I don't know if I'll run again after this term. And so I just want to make sure, like, I'm thinking clearly. You know, I think I'm very concerned about making sure that the outlying areas, you know, have representation, but also that there's the voice of the people who have both elementary students and secondary students in the district. And I just hope that we can continue to be democratic and have lots of great options when it comes to election time when we have this new format.
Yeah, just briefly looking over, I mean, not briefly.
Now for the fourth time looking over. Yeah.
Right. I noticed that the purple and green map are the only maps that accurately contain Parkland Farms as its own district.
Right.
And that's a very, you know, similar voting group in comparison to other areas. So it doesn't really make sense to me for some of those other districts where Parkland Farms. Sorry, it doesn't stretch.
Sorry, there you go, now there's
So it doesn't really make sense for me, or to me, that we have these larger rural districts cut into Parkland Farms. Those are where most of our students are coming from. That is a voting block. I also want to point out that the purple district, or the purple map, cuts into Mill District and kind of some of the central parts of town. Again, does not, like, for lack of better words, it doesn't share the same ambiance of, you know, the rural outside that's further south. So for me, I mean, just looking at these maps, green makes no sense, but yeah.
I'm a no on green. No, I mean, this is the thing, we're supposed to be able to revise the map too.
Can you speak into the mic, Rose?
Oh, sorry. I know we have limited options for revision based on the census blocks, but I agree that Parkland Farms is like the way we think of it, and the way that, you know, families from Parkland Farms are, you know, integrated into the district, that it makes more sense to have that to be part of kind of like the in-town neighborhoods. But I dislike the way these two, I dislike the way these two like just in-town districts are shaped, so that's why I was not liking the green map.
I would also like to clarify, there was a couple of community members that thought that these maps were a representation of whether or not they lived in the bounds for their student to attend the Healdsburg school district, and that's not what this is at all. This is more just to, again, go from an all general voting to just a trustee per area, which is not yet. Yeah, right.
Just looking at the maps, Julian, I'm wondering, the teal map does seem to have Parkland Farms all in one area. It's just included with larger ABS in the blue, is that right? Yeah.
Well, that puts Parkland,
We put Parkland Farms with the rural.
that's what I was
Yeah.
saying, is then those two groups, I mean, Parkland Farms is its own, voting block,
It can't be though.
but in the.
But it's not 3,200 people.
Well, right.
So you have to.
But
They
it,
have to
it
prove
mixes
it.
better with some of those more in-town groupings than it does with some of that rural outside. I mean, at least in mine.
Yeah.
You could also look at it as the teal map. Parkland Farms would probably carry that whole area in terms of the vote. Yeah.
It's almost like a Rorschach test, like, what do you see? I see this, and there's, I don't know, no right and wrong, I guess, but I kind of have an opposite perspective of this, kind of thinking back at the west side and Alexander Valley districts, which there are green lines. I don't know, it took me a while to figure that out in here, that the green lines designate, the Healdsburg district is actually a big chunk in the middle of this, which is not obvious. It's not just that little downtown area, right? So if we look at, I feel like if we have areas that just contain all of the West Side District and contain all of the Alexander Valley District, I don't know, it just feels like we continue to separate instead of pulling those, what am I saying? Not contingencies, but constituents together into town. And so weirdly enough, I'm leaning like toward the teal map with a single little downtown entity, and then these sort of larger districts that combine our downtown area a little bit with a little bit of the school district with the outside of our actual district to create what I think are more level, even 5 districts, other than the middle one, which is its own little thing. So that's just my kind of strange look at this. I don't think there's a right and wrong.
No.
Right?
No, there's a couple of maps that appeal to me, but I actually agree with Donna. I like the teal map, and I like it because it combines, if you want to call Healdsburg urban and kind of rural areas together, and it makes us not so separate, which appeals to me. And the other thing that appeals to me about that is that there are two areas that have the larger Latino population, and even though they're not perhaps a larger, it wouldn't be that percentage maybe of voters, they still have a lot of our kids in it.
Yes.
And when we're talking about the school district, we're talking about our students. And I think that it's really important to look at that. So on all of the maps, I was leaning towards the ones that had the 2 more concentrated areas. But I also really like that teal map because it brings in, it makes all of this area, the school district area, it doesn't matter whether you're in the country or if you're in town. I guess in town and in the country is a little better than urban and rural.
Except for District 3, which is.
Yeah, we're all in town, but it's still pretty rural.
Can I ask a couple clarifying questions?
Yeah.
Go ahead. My understanding is that this map is drawn so that we have a trustee from each area when we vote. So my question is, if you live in the county, do you get to vote?
Yes.
For the trustee?
Yes.
You just don't get to vote for the map?
Well, this is your voice in the map making now, and you will get to vote just on whoever's running in, like, if it's the teal map, District 1.
And do people in town get to vote on which map, or just you?
No,
No.
We're doing that.
We're supposed to decide on the map with community input, which is why we have all these hearings, but we haven't had a lot of people telling us what they want.
It's not
It's
unlike the
really hard
process.
because we can't see the maps very well. Like, it would be great if we had a printout of them and we could really look at them and see the different areas, because I'm one of those partially disenfranchised voters, as I mentioned at the last meeting, because I live in the county. But it would be nice if we had printed versions of maps to consider, so that we could send you a little note about what we think.
They're all online, Maria, if you want to look at them. They're on the website.
Oh, on the HUSD website.
Yeah,
Okay, great,
there's
thank you.
There's a whole page, and the next, just so you know, the 27th, there'll be another public hearing, so you can give input there.
And I mean, Chris, is it possible for us to get paper printouts of the map that someone could look at?
Yeah, I mean, you can bring them to the public hearings, yeah.
Yeah, I think it might be useful, and I know it's like not cheap, but I do think it's really good to be able to study sort of what these boundaries are closely, and, you know, and hopefully will get us to like where we need to go in the next couple weeks here.
I think it's easier to see the display at the city council chambers than it is here. So
Yeah, yeah, it's true. And can I ask that can we pull out just this part of the board packet into its own PDF type, you know, emailable thing that we can post on Facebook? We post on. Do we have this on the district website?
The PowerPoint?
Or the maps?
Yes.
Yeah, they're all,
Okay.
there's a page that has it all.
There's a page that has it all, so there you go.
Including
you
an
can-
interactive tool to make your own map.
That's true, and enlarge and shrink.
Yeah.
So a separate link to that PowerPoint would be, for me, ideal.
Yeah, well,
I can email you guys the
yeah,
link.
that's great.
But also put it on so public, so parents could, if they're,
Yeah.
and you know me, so if they're like people, I'm a big thing, it's just, you know, touch this. Thank you.
I was just going to add, or almost contradict what I said before, that the teal map is odd. I mean, it's really odd. The idea of campaigning way out Balash.
Well, anybody who's out in the country is
Right.
going to have to,
Well, and
whatever candidate's going to have to go out there.
except for District 3,
Oh,
and
yeah.
this map, it's all like within walking distance. So that, I don't know if I have a solution right now.
So that is the least important to me. I think what's important are the children, and that they are all our kids. And even if the kids go to Alexander Valley or the West Side in the elementary, this is when they reach the junior high school, the secondary. Yeah, anyway, I think that's really important.
Any other emotional feelings toward or against any of these?
Yes, I really.
I have a request, Laurel, please, or somebody. Is there any way that we can get either a direct, I know, did you mention that this was on our Facebook page or our district page?
It's on the website.
Okay, is there any way that we can post this on our social media, or even if it's just the pictures of the maps, so parents or people in the community can look at them, like the actual photo of the map? That would be great, please. Anybody else have anything to say about these maps?
If I can add one note, just, this is Dr. Johnson, for NEC. Especially for the residents who are interested, they should be aware that all the maps get posted a full week before the hearing. So if there are any new maps that come up between now and the next hearing, they will be posted by the 20th. So anyone who's interested should be sure to check them out anytime between the 20th and the 20th.
And I just want to remind everybody, there's legalities around timeline. So on the 27th, we will be not only having a public hearing and discussing potential maps, we'll be voting to approve one.
Yes.
So, and then it goes to the county board, which will approve it hopefully, and then it's done.
So if any of our community members out there have any feelings about what maps we should adopt, please feel free to reach out to any of us. But with that being said,
Yeah, are you guys on Zoom? Are you done with your presentation? Anything to add?
That's it for us.
Okay.
Yeah, the only question I was gonna say is, one person mentioned liking the green map but not liking the configuration within the city. If there's another configuration that you'd like us to try, we can try making a revision of that would rotate those 3 or 4 seats in the city, if that's something you want to see.
Do any of my fellow trustees have any other visceral reactions, positive or negative, toward the maps, or like?
It's been said, I do not like, I don't know how to say it the right way, there's sort of this condensed, I'm looking at the green map as an example, some of the others are similar, where, I'm going to call it country.
Mike, can you speak closer to the microphone?
We all are country, but the ones basically in Alexander Valley and out in the west side area, like a green map, they're all kind of out there. My concern, and I think it's been said earlier, those folks are sending their kids to a separate elementary district, which is fine, but their consideration of the high school may not be as inclined to participate, I guess, as far as representation, number one. I would also, try to, again, not isolate those 2 districts. My words, I'm not sure that's the intent. My other comment, looking at most of the maps have at least 2 fairly good-sized Latino populations. Again, those are populations, I assume, not voting populations.
No, that's citizen voting age.
Those are voting populations?
None of it represents like actual people, and that's one of the challenges.
Okay, I understand that.
Well,
Okay.
no, it does. It does
the voting age population.
It does, the 3,200-ish is all, that's population. But but you have to keep in mind the voting age too. But the 3,200, I believe, is the entire population.
Is that correct?
It's not just voting age.
They're nodding, yeah.
So that's correct. When you talk about the number of people in the stressing area, that is total population, all human beings counted in the census.
Right.
But then when we get those Latino percentages, that is the Latino percentage of the eligible voters.
Right. 17% overall Latino are in the voting population. Okay. Anyhow, I just like to see which is the strongest Latino population. 23% of that would mean that maybe 10% of those people are voting in fact. Is that correct? Do I have that?
Do we know that?
We don't know that.
Well, based on the 17 versus 78%.
You'd have to look at numerically.
Oh, yeah, you can't compare them like that because it's 31% of the total population versus 17% of the eligible voter population, so you can't directly divide those.
Okay, clear as mud. Okay, thank you.
Well, and also it just bears mentioning that these demographics don't look like the demographics of our schools, who are the people that we are serving and here to serve. So that's difficult too, but we'll just hope for the best.
Speaking, adding on to that, do my fellow board members kind of agree that we should have some more information about childbearing age, like around those areas, because those are the people that are going to be having kids, sending them to our school districts. Isn't that a factor that should be considered?
So,
consider that. The apps. Is that
Yeah.
possible?
I I will note online, and there is a much larger demographic sheet than we just showed a little snippet on the slide. And in there, one of the rows is the percentage of households that have a child under 18 in the household. So you can get a sense of if the school kids are concentrated in one or two trustee areas, or if they're evenly spread throughout the trustee areas.
And another thing to think about is that in 2030, when the new census data is released, which will probably happen a year or two after 2030, there'll be a revision to this process. So we'll take the map, whatever map is selected, and then there's a shorter revision process where lines can be adjusted based on the new population totals.
So would it be of value or even possible data per each map to include the information about the households with people under 18 years of age that they just mentioned? I mean, I know we can do it ourselves, but if we could have it added to the data at the next round, that might be very insightful. Would anyone else agree?
Yeah, it's good.
Can we do that?
I don't know.
I mean, we can certainly provide it. I would probably encourage you more to look at the percentage of households, and it is interesting. I actually glanced at Teal, and in the Teal map in Trustee Area 5, only 13% of households have a child in home. So it's an older population, as opposed to 30% in 3 and 4, and 23 or 24% in 1 and 2. So you do have kind of this breakdown of how many households actually have school-age children already in the sheet. But we can give you as you say, we obviously know it. We can just give you a little spreadsheet of how many kids, how many children under 18 are in each trustee area. Keep in mind, it's going to be for 5 trustee areas for 5 maps. It's going to be 25 different data points. So we're happy to do that.
All right. Well, if we have any other comments,
Do you guys want to
trustees? Okay, are we good for tonight? For this? Okay, well, thank you all for your comments. The public hearing received public testimony concerning proposed trustee voting areas is now closed. So we're going to move on to...
Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
11.1B, Citizens Bond Oversight Committee Measure D Annual Report, given to us by Chris Anderson.
So the Citizens Bond Oversight Committee is required to do a report annually after reviewing the bond audit. And the Citizens Bond Oversight Committee met last week, and Chairperson Chris will be presenting the report.
And I just want, as a matter of introduction, Chris is a parent in our district. He has 2 kids, right? CJ and Asher, is that right?
Well, you're ruining my introduction.
Oh, and proud uncle of Claire, who's an HHS alum and just graduated from Kansas State. So,
that's right, yes. So very pleased to be here before the board to give you this update. I have a ton of experience, as in 1 meeting and about 7 days on this oversight committee. I also wanted to just acknowledge some of the great teachers like Ms. Hadley in the audience, Susie from the junior high, thank you so much for all of your help, and Ms. McGuire. I'm sure there's others that I'm missing, but and some great parents that are out there as well. So the Citizens Bond Oversight Committee is made up of the members displayed here. We are looking for members in any of these vacant spots. So if you're interested, we are supported by the best darn staff in the world over here. So we'd really encourage you. It's a very important committee to be a part of, with a very minor commitment of time on your behalf. I also forgot to mention that I am a proud member of the Healdsburg Hounds, class of '96. Go Hounds! Sorry, I was waiting anything for some applause. So, if we want to move to the next slide, the purpose of the Citizens Bond Oversight Committee is to allow the community to audit the use of the bond revenue, to ensure that that the bond revenue is being allocated correctly. We do that by informing the public We do this by going through our district's expenditures of bonds proceeds. I'm going to walk through that tonight. We also review in detail the expenditure reports produced by an accounting firm. We did that at our last meeting. And we're making sure that we're expending these bond proceeds only for the purposes set forth in Measure D, and that no bond proceeds have been used for teacher or administrative salaries other than for pure operating expenses. And then we create an annual report at least once annually, commencing with the end of the fiscal year, in which any bond proceeds are expended, and then we continue through the fiscal year, and the committee shall prepare an annual report. Did I mention that I am a class of '96 Greyhound? Because this is exciting stuff. So we went through this 2023, 2024, so it's 2025, but I'm giving you guys a report a little bit back in time. On March 4th, I wasn't privy to this, but there was, the committee took a tour of Healdsburg High, focusing on the modernization of classrooms. We received an update on construction projects. We reviewed the Citizens Bond Oversight Committee bylaws for Measure D and the committee's roles and responsibilities. We elected a chairperson, Donna Del Rey, and a vice chair, David Jones. We reviewed expenditures and audits, and we prepared an annual report. We did not meet in the fall of 2024, and I now have the lucky role of being that chairperson, and again, looking for other members if anybody is so interested. So moving on. So Measure D projects. What are Measure D projects? It's a question I had myself. I can go through the list, but look, they cover specifically phase 2, which includes HVAC and roof replacement, dry rot repair. So there's some basic things. Library upgrades, complete campus exterior painting. So there's some basics sort of here. There's campus-wide rekeying. So we've got some data upgrades included here. We're demolishing the 80s portables. We've got field modifications, cafeteria re-roof, tennis court rehab. We're going to talk in depth about the HHS Frost Hall and Drew Escott Hall modernization, some classroom modernizations, and the HHS front entry and growth. But when I looked at this to kind of understand my responsibilities, it was like, all right, there's some basic stuff that we're doing here that's just, preserving the campus, keeping the campus going. But boy, there's some really amazing things, because this campus is light years different than when I was here in the 90s. Oh my gosh, I feel like it's nicer than UC San Diego. I mean, it is amazing what has been done. And so those are some of the projects. If you want to actually just kind of take a look at what we've been spending, if we want to move on to the next slide. Our changes in the fund balance as of June 30th, we began with $16.8 million, spent $5.4. We earned interest, which I was thrilled to hear that with these large sums of money, we are allocating them into some interest-bearing facilities. So nearly $850,000 in interest, with an ending fund balance of approximately $12.25 million. Let's talk about some of the cool stuff. So we completed these projects. This is Frost Hall before and after. That is a much nicer wrestling mat and setup than I had when I was getting booked as a heavyweight in '96. And so that's an amazing job. And we have another picture of that as well. And so wherever we can, we're looking to multi-purpose these areas. So we have both the ability to run the hall as a wrestling facility, a multi-purpose room, and an auditorium here. So I think these are some great projects. I think there's another. Forgive the naming conventions here. I think there's another item to talk about Frost Hall later this evening. So 2024, 2025 projects. So two areas I think are going to have major impact for the school as well as the community as a whole. So, we're all familiar with this lackluster entryway. You guys did remove the steel cage that the parking lot used to be in when I was a student here. But this is accomplishing several things. It's beautifying that entry and making the entry feel more welcoming. Part of it was a surprised being staff director if I got this wrong, but I think part of the goal is that when school is not in use, that we are inviting folks to use the school as part of our kind of Parks and Rec sort of. So these two items that we're going to be talking about, I think, go a long way to that. So we're branding that Power H that we're all proud of here with Healdsburg High. We're bringing in some beautification here. We're making some necessary upgrades to ensure a nice, smooth, and welcoming environment. And then there's a pretty substantial amount of work going into the parking lot surfacing itself. The project cost is for both projects, I believe, right, is $3.8 million. The second component of this, which is really exciting, is revitalizing this grove area out here. And one of the things that really impressed me was the amount of thought that was put into the different types of plants as far as maintenance, water usage, but also the goal to bring this area in as a collaborative workspace. So there'll be some turf mounds where folks can sit. There's an area that can accommodate up to 25 students and a teacher, if anyone decides to take the classroom outdoor. And so I think I think it'll be a great benefit for the students to get a higher use out of this beautiful grove area. And then the community obviously would be able to use that area in non-school as well. Let's see here. So in summary, I know we're trying to make up a little bit of time here. So in summary, let me just share with you happily that the results that the committee reviewed saw that the Healdsburg Unified School District properly accounted for the expenditures held in the building fund, authorized by General Obligation Bonds Measure D, and that such expenditures were made for authorized bond projects. And I think it is, really some amazing work that's going on that we should all be proud that we're a part of it. Thanks to everybody who has worked on it. All right then.
Chris, thank you for taking on the chair. We really appreciate it. You're hired.
All right, proud to be part of it. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. All right, 11.2, student learning. My bad. 23-24 bond audit.
Okay, well, now this is going to be boring after listening to Chris. But now we have to approve the actual audit. Chris already went over the expenditures and showed the ending balance was 12.2. At the end of the year, on June 30, we had 5.7 million of that committed, and we have 3.8 million going out towards the growth. We had no audit findings in the 23-24 audit, and we will be reviewing the funds after this next project to see what we have left and voting on where it might go. Is there any questions?
Actually, one question.
So the ending balance includes all the costs from the Escobar Hall. They're all wrapped up in.
No. All of Escobar Hall was not paid for as of June 30.
Thank you.
In fact, it's not even closed yet.
That's because I wasn't sure what went in what year.
Yeah, this ended June 30, 24.
Right, so some of it probably in there, but not all of it. Thank you. Right.
It's 10 million.
All right, do I have a motion to approve the bond audit?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none.
Now, moving on to 11.2, student learning. We have North Bay Children's Center here to give us an annual update on the Fishtown preschool
This
operation.
is always one of the highlights of our board meetings, hearing about our littles at Fitch. And Susan Gilmore and her team from North Bay Children's Center are here to tell us what's going on. So, welcome.
This is one of our favorite meetings as well. I'm Susan Gilmore, and I'm the founder, president, and CEO of the North Bay Children's Center, which we established in 1986. So but we've been doing this for a while. You will. Are you driving? Okay. Okay, so we're going to start with our mission. You have the slide deck in front of you. But our mission is to ensure that all children, particularly our most vulnerable, have access to those high-quality early learning experiences that pave the foundation for future academic success. And there A little bit about our organization structure. Our service area is Marin and Sonoma County. That's our little map to the left. And we're running out of space on the map to be able to keep adding all of our new locations. But Healdsburg's up at the very top. And we have over 535 low-income children at 14 locations between Marin and Sonoma County, and we are working with 7 school districts. And I'm looking at that data point, and not every family we serve receives tuition assistance or is low income, but the majority of the families we serve do qualify for contract funding from the state of California, and they are either working or going to school full-time and are able to live and work in this area because they have access to affordable childcare. So we are providing services to enable our current workforce to live here, but making sure that our future workforce is ready to attend school and be academically successful and eventually earn a living wage and break that cycle of poverty in their family. So it's really important what's happening in these classrooms. So we have 175 employees. We have 22 paid interns. We have a board members. We have 15 board members. We have advisory council members and 129 volunteers that help us do the work that we're doing at all these locations. And I already talked about the demographics of the families we serve, so you go to the next slide. So our education philosophy, you have it in your packet as well. I'm not going to read our philosophy, but all of our classrooms and learning environments and curriculum reflect best practices in childcare and environmental education. And this is captured in the philosophy that you have in front of you. The next slide. So we're our Fitch Mountain campus. These are, this is emergent learning happening after following a rainstorm. So there we are in the playground, and we are learning how to dam up water, about how we have mud for our mud kitchen, and what sinks and what floats. And we are at this campus, as you know, we added toddlers. There's such a huge need for infant and toddler care throughout Sonoma County, and so that's where all our growth has been over the past year at several locations. And we have our licensing capacity is 81 students, and we currently have 55 preschoolers. We have 11 toddlers, and our openings are in the half-day program. So we've really struggled with this one classroom. And actually, this was the original classroom that we came on board to operate, was the half-day program. And then we have been expanding capacity over the years when there was new funding available. And the reason this is hard to fill with these programs is because we have our half-day program in the morning is full, but it's the afternoon program that's difficult to find families that want to fit into that schedule. So we're looking at different strategies on how we want to maybe do a blended model in that classroom with full-day families and half-day children. So we're exploring that and working closely with the district too, with the special ed department, to see if there are students that can be in that classroom in the afternoon. So we have, again, 89% of our enrollment here is made up of children that are on the contracts that are funded by the California Department of Education and California Department of Social Services. And 11% of our enrollment are families that want high-quality childcare and need to have childcare to work, and those families pay the market rate fees to cover the cost of that program. And then 10% of our enrollment is made up of students with exceptional needs. Okay, next slide. This is our preschoolers. Oh, I think Christina's trying to make a move for the mic here. I should probably introduce my team. I feel it. I'm on a roll. I didn't introduce my team here. And these are the people that make all this happen. And this is, behind me is Christina Sisik, who is our VP of Programs. And then Jolene Smith, our amazing site supervisor for this location. And Christina's going to walk us through a little bit of our school readiness building blocks and more about the curriculum and programming. But the photo you'll see, this is a really big deal every year, is our graduation. We would always love you to come to our graduation ceremonies if you are around for that event. And this is the very first big milestone in the educational milestone for these kids. So it's very special. All right, so Christina's going to take over for a minute.
Hi, everyone. So Susan was talking about our program and school readiness and how we're getting kids ready for the next step in their academic life. So what we really focus on at our Fish Mountain campus is our social emotional competencies. So we lean into our coping strategies, conflict negotiation between peers, using the teaching pyramid model, which is a positive behavior support system implementation. All of our teachers are trained in that practice. They receive coaching and support from our curriculum and training director, making sure we have visual schedules up in the classroom, making sure that we have sensory needs that are being met, and then also partnering also with our wonderful SED department on other strategies we could possibly be utilizing in our work as well. We also use second step. I have Jolene up here because I wanted her to kind of share exactly some other examples in the classroom that we're using. So I'm going to hand it over about the social emotional.
Okay, so there are so many components, there are so many possibilities. So every teacher at NBCC, they take the teaching pyramid training, and the training consists of approximately 40 hours of how to support the social and emotional development of our students. Teachers learn a variety of ways to help children develop skills in emotional literacy, emotional regulation, friendship skills, and most importantly, how to help reduce challenging behaviors with our little ones. And I think the difference can be seen long term with the techniques and strategies that are implemented. I think that it will make a difference, and it does make a difference when our students go on to teaching kindergarten and they have these social emotional skills. They have been they have been taught how to develop a friendship, how to enter and engage into play, how to negotiate and share, how to express their needs appropriately and within a large group. And so it's so important. It's so important, and we just love that teaching pyramid training. And I guess to support that, we also have the second step curriculum. The curriculum component, teachers can pull out different lessons on a variety of different topics and just easily work that into their lesson plan. So if we can pinpoint a certain topic, sharing, for example, or turn taking, we want to implement more of that and see that in the classroom, they could easily take out some activities and lessons from second step. So there's more to it, but I think I would have to invite you guys in to tell you more because I don't want to take
and so our literacy component, we have Raising a Reader, which is an extension from home, book bags that are sent home weekly with our students, and then they get it checked out the next week, and that's really to make sure that reading is happening with our families. The TALK program is a dual language learning program that our team has adopted, and Jolene is the coach for. And this TALK program is ran from Sonoma County Office of Ed, and they have monthly meetings with the TALK coordinator.
It could be about several times a year, it's kind of spread out, so it's not quite once a month.
Yeah. Pretty frequent. And then last year, the whole team went through project-based learning with SCO in this training. It was a year-long study, and I encourage you to come visit Fish Mountain Preschool because the boards are still up in the room about the projects that they did and implemented. A lot of pumpkin exploration was happening for like a full year, so it was pretty amazing in those classrooms. And of course, we have our Garden of Eden program that is fully implemented, embraced, and amazing at our Fish Mountain campus. Is there anything else you want to add in this area, Jolie?
I think I could add it later.
Okay. So next slide. So building resiliency, like I said, social emotional competencies are really a focus in our programs. And so our investment has been on trauma-informed care training. We have trained everybody in North Bay Children's Center's teaching staff and administration and leadership on trauma-informed practices and looking for signs and supports that we can be implementing right away. We also have an in-house mental health provider that comes in and does coaching with the staff so that they are talking and maybe looking for a family that might need a little bit more support and more individualized care. And as well as our curriculum and training director is a certified trauma-informed care trainer and provider. So she comes in from that lens when she's coming in to coach and support our curriculum practices.
Was that me?
Oh, that's me, so. I tried to bail early. Okay, so building strong communities. Our family engagement at this site, I've got to tell you, Jolene and her team do an amazing job bringing families in and doing celebrations, having an active parent advisory committee, making sure parents have educational events readily available to them on topics that they have chosen through surveys and orientation process. You'll see some photos here of parents participating and events coming in. The community engagement piece, I want to bring Jolene in to talk about some success stories we've been having with your guys' special ed department and kind of keep looking at you. A lot of wonderful success and wonderful moments have happened. So Jolene, can we talk about that?
Sure. So yeah, I have shared with Christina and Susan our partnership with the special education department with HUSD, and a special thanks to Kevin Bean this year for continuing that support for the students in Healdsburg. It's a beautiful partnership. I'll try to summarize it. Again, there's so much that I could be said, but I invite you to come in anytime. So I think so with the support and from the paraprofessionals, I see some here, and our teachers from NBCC, they partner together and they just work together so beautifully to provide an inclusive, high-quality preschool program for these young learners in our community. And I can't express how meaningful it is to these families that their children can come in and be included in a classroom with other peers, and some of them are literally their neighbors, like literally the next door neighbor, in the same classroom, and they're in there together. And to have access to that and to be included, it's very meaningful. The parents have talked a lot about this. And to be able to see the growth that these students develop over their time that they spend here in the preschool, and the joy on their faces every day. It's so wonderful, so amazing. Probably one of my favorite collaborations, of all the collaborations that we do. It's really great.
I kind of want to tell a story. She sent me a video of these 4 amazing students singing happy birthday, but signing it. And it was just amazing. I wish we had it up here because it just touched my heart to see how inclusive the whole environment is. And I'm going to move forward because I see that we kind of need to keep going. So Susan, I'm going to turn it back to you.
If you can make sure to speak into the mic, we got some comments on Facebook that people can hear you, so just.
Okay.
Thank you.
So the previous photo, previous slide, one of the photos there, you may recognize Chef Dustin Vallette. And he is one of the community members who is involved in the organization. He owns Matheson and the Matheson restaurant and Vallette's. And we will be doing on September 4th a very special fundraiser dinner at Vallette's to support this program in our nutrition education, the Garden of Eden. So going into the Garden of Eden, next slide. Thank you. All right, so there are 5 components to our award-winning Garden of Eden. In this program, we created 20 years ago when we were reading about childhood obesity and wanting to be part of the solution and prevention. We serve 2 out of the 3 meals that these children are having daily, they're having with us, and we can really influence those little taste buds right from the beginning. And we, this program was studied by UCSF and was written up in the American Journal for Public Health on the benefits of the program and how it impacted how families are shopping and feeding their children. So this is, we have a beautiful garden, and I really want to thank the board and thank administration. Chris has been, you know, this team has been so amazing to work with and to really let us do our thing that we do best there and raise the money that we need to develop those outdoor playscapes and the gardens. And it is one of, this is one of our, when we want to showcase this program, we bring people here. And this is the 5 components are the nutrition education and physical activity curriculum. We developed that. When we created this program, there wasn't a model for this, so we hired a nutritionist from Head Start to work with a master gardener and our leadership team to create a age-appropriate curriculum that would be integrated into the daily activities of the 0 to 5 age group. So we have since then, and we have obviously our outdoor gardens, healthy food service, opportunities for parent engagement, and of course our community partners. And to the past 2 years, next slide, we licensed the curriculum. We've had so many other schools looking at what we're doing and seeing the curriculum and wanting to have that for their programs. So we actually licensed it and created training modules for other programs beyond those that we are providing. And there's in your packet, I'm not going to go through each detail, but it lists what the components are of that curriculum. And I'm mentioning it in great detail here for you because your TK and kindergarten teachers have come over for a tour and explored our gardens, and they're interested in this curriculum as well. So we're really excited about that. So next slide. The other hot topic for us right now, it's a hot topic, an important topic for many sectors here is climate, and we've definitely experienced what happens in our communities and with our kids with climate-related events. I mean, when we talk about climate-related events, we're talking about poor air quality, extreme heat, what we've had to deal with fires. And we know that optimal child development is dependent on stable schools, stable families, and stable communities. And a climate-related event can destabilize all 3 of those factors in minutes. And we've experienced that. We saw what happens in our communities when children and families are displaced, schools close down. So we are, we are doing everything we can to mitigate that. And we could go to our next slide. We are, it's important, we're not teaching about climate. This is the 0 to 5 age group, so this is not a concept that they understand, but what they do understand is reciprocity. And they know if I'm kind to this ladybug, and this ladybug is kind to my garden, and then this is what the garden is going to do for me, they understand that. And what our goal is to raise awareness, build resiliency, and inspire children to grow up and want to be stewards of our planet. And they're very effective right now out there with what they're doing with the gardens. So we've updated our playground designs to support a nature-based curriculum. We've adopted strategies to minimize school closures. We've adopted policies and practices that reduce energy and we've energy consumption. And I've presented to the U.S. Early Years Climate Action Task Force, and a lot of what was in my presentation about our experience here when we were dealing with fires, and thoughts about planning and moving forward. Those were all incorporated into the final report they did. And one of the Penn State University who read that report and followed all this actually came out here to the Healdsburg campus, and they for 3 days filmed content for their course on climate change and early care and education. And so the Healdsburg campus is part of that, yes, and it's a wonderful again, all of our, there's a picture of me being interviewed with a very curious preschooler that was they were all part of it. And so this has, put us on the map for leaders around this conversation. And we were also interviewed up here. I don't know if you saw the article, but I certainly forwarded it to you. KQED did an interview at the Healdsburg campus on the same topic, and just about building resiliency and how we deal with this age group. So last slide. There we are with our little toilet paper binoculars, and we are looking forward to some exciting things on the horizon. And we are, one of those exciting things is we've raised enough money through grants to build construct a new toddler playground, which will be separate from the preschool yard. So we are continuing to develop outdoor areas, and we talked about the Park Day program and that we are challenged with that, and we want to work closely with your team to try to come up with a solution and serve more children in the one classroom where we do have vacancies. And that's it for now. So we'll open up for questions if you have any.
I just want to, thank you. I just want to congratulate you and thank you. I've been to Village a couple times, and it's fantastic. The curriculum, the learning, and the outdoor garden is phenomenal. So thank you for being here, and Mr. Appreciate it.
This is a wonderful campus to work with, and like I said, we work with 7 different school districts, and this is always my model of, with leadership, Erica, Chris, and everything that we do together. I mean, it really is a partnership. Okay, well, thank you. We'll see you next year with a different slide deck.
Thank you. And now moving on to 11.2, the Healdsburg High School Work Experience course. Presented to us by Mr. Skate.
Oh, she said, I thought you said awards and sports.
Sorry.
I will not be talking about awards and sports. We will be talking about our work experience. I don't know if you can put up the work experience grant on the board, but I'm just going to say a few words and then turn it over to Ben Witten, who's done the lion's share of the writing of this course. So work experience has been something that's been talked about at Healdsburg High School for a number of years. The genesis this year was a collaborative meeting with the CTE department, where we decided we really wanted to emphasize this. We have 60% of our students currently completing CTE pathways and looking for a way to continue that education. Work experience is an opportunity for kids across all of our CTE pathways to be able to continue in their chosen, let's not call it profession, but their chosen pathway. I'm going to let Ben talk a little bit more about the course itself.
Hi, so the idea behind the course was that we really wanted to expand what we were doing within CTE and really focus on the idea of some actual workplace experience. And we're really kind of combining some of the successes we've had at Healdsburg High with the internship program, as well as really kind of taking some of the model from Big Picture Learning over at MBA, and really kind of seeing how we can incorporate that into our CTE program to really expand on what we're doing with our students. It was actually just really interesting. As I was listening to all the discussion about the littles over at Fish Mountain, it's a lot of the same model, honestly. We're looking at how do we build ongoing resilience and that social emotional competency and literacy in interacting with other people. Because really the goal for our high school students is not getting them through high school and successful high school, it's preparing them for the rest of their lives. And anyone who's worked in a workplace before knows that what you gain there and all those kind of little pieces that you find as far as the resiliency and the social emotional learning and how you interact with other people is really kind of exponentially grown in that space. So what we're really trying to do is look at how can we expand out that experience for our students. I got to go to the internship presentation the other night, and it was really incredible to listen to the students talk about in just 6 days of working on the job, how much they're able to take their experiences in the academics here and apply them in a workplace setting and actually kind of develop and grow and build off of those experiences. So what we're really going to be trying to achieve is having students participate in ongoing internships. So throughout the entirety of the year, actually going out and doing internship experiences, and then working one-on-one with their CTE instructor to talk about things like that career development, how you interact in the workplace, what challenges you're facing, working with peers as well and discussing what those challenges are, how they overcome them, to really develop out those competencies in a real-world setting so they can apply all the academics, interaction they're learning here to actual ongoing careers. I know when I was in high school, I didn't have all the CTA stuff, all that stuff available. I always kind of wished like, oh man, this would be great if this existed. Because then I would have actually gotten to see like what it's like to actually work in a workplace. I didn't work for the first time in a professional kitchen until I graduated from a master's program. And then I decided, man, I don't want to do any of the stuff I've been studying to do for the last like 20 years. And I'd like run away and go start like just working in kitchens and discovered like that's what I was passionate about. Perhaps if when I was 17 I had that opportunity, I could have had a little bit of guidance. Maybe what I decided is, man, I really don't want to do that. I want to go become a teacher instead, which is what I eventually circled around to. But having those like workplace experiences like really help guide students in kind of creating a really directed pathway for themselves. So that's going to be really kind of the goal there, is to give that additional opportunity to students on an ongoing basis.
You know, we've been talking about a third year for our students for many, many years. And it's been tough because of credentialing requirements. And, you know, we are a small school. We have 4 or 5, maybe 6 students in each pathway that want to take a third year or able to take a third year because they had entered, you know, they took the beginning class as either a freshman or a sophomore, and then the second class as either a sophomore or a junior, and then they get to senior year and they have to repeat Auto 2, or they have to repeat advanced culinary. We've been discussing how to do this for years. Chef Witten shows up and he rallies the CTE department. He comes up with this great idea of doing this as an embedded course. And we've been troubled by how do we do this with such a small number. And I just want to thank Chef Witten for his leadership with his colleagues and helping them see this in a different light and being able to kind of push this over a hump that we've had in terms of implementation. So I just appreciate your leadership in a really short period of time. And I think without him helping his fellow CTE instructors kind of envision how this would work, we wouldn't be here tonight. So I just wanted to say thank you.
And I guess just kind of echo that for the rest of the CTE department. I think it really was cool to just kind of see how everyone came together, because I think once the discussion really turned to not like I have culinary students who are trying to get to understand the culinary field, or construction students trying to understand the construction field, but what we have are students that we're trying to prepare for their lives. And I mean, for me, it's like if some kid takes culinary, like I don't like culinary, I want to try something else. If they want to try construction, that's awesome. If they're finding their passion, that's what really, really matters. So I think once we kind of all got on that same page, we're just saying like, what we really want to do is we all, I think in the CTE department, very passionately believe that a kid taking CTE classes is going to have a better, more successful outcome in their educational experience because of the ability to apply what they're learning in a whole different way or connect with their learning in a different way. It doesn't matter what they're doing within there as long as we can do that. And I think this model, what we're talking about doing, is going to allow kids to have kind of a deeper expanse into any type of CTE and possibly even kind of cross over and figure out what's best for them.
Yeah, so as with any other new course outline, this is, you know, first reading. If you have any questions or comments, the full course outline is in your packet. I invite you to read it. If you have any questions for myself, Principal Danhausen, or Chef Witten, we're happy to answer those, and then we would bring this back in the next meeting for approval with the idea of launching it next year. So we have some students who are eagerly awaiting. We've been kind of talking about it as a possibility, and I think we're going to have a good number of students who are ready to take on this challenge. Any questions or comments?
A quick comment. I think this is great. I think Aaron told me 4 or 5 years ago we went and saw Big Picture Learning over in Windsor. I was very impressed, and my comment at the time was like, well, don't tell the rest of the high school they'll all want to sign up for Marcy Becerra. And since that time, and often when I see Marcy Becerra do presentations as they have, I always think, well, how do you do that at the school? And you're going to do. And thank you. I think this is outstanding. Thanks so much.
Yeah, totally. I agree with Mike, and I also, I think that we learn so much working as teenagers about what adult life looks like. It may be the first time that someone ever has the kind of expectations of us that will be the norm in just a few years later. And I really think that practical experience of being in a workplace and showing up on time and wearing the right clothes and doing what you say you're going to do and following the rules and learning to interact with bosses and your coworkers and all those things are just like, there's just this exponential amount of learning and personal growth that happens in that environment. And the idea that that will be integrated right into the curriculum along with the kind of learning that's going on in the classroom is just super, super exciting. I think in some ways my memories of jobs I had in high school are much more vivid than the memories I have of what I learned in the classroom. And, it was the first time anyone ever handed me the keys and was like, your turn to lock the door tonight or whatever. And all those things are really, really meaningful when you think about the kind of adult that you want to be, that you're about to be. So very cool. Thank you.
I'm going to talk briefly just about the culinary department and the program since Ben Witten Chef Witten has taken over the program. I honestly think it's a pretty positive transition. We've been seeing a lot more of that CTE kind of mindset. I'll give you guys the example. We're working on a food truck kind of presentation to the JC to showcase what we've done with a bond. And we've had to expand so much more than what I ever had to do in prior years. And it's really helped me be, think more critically about what I was doing, what I wanted to present, what flavor compounds, components, all these, very important things if you want to really get into that field. And so honestly, I just think that this is a really important and really great transition.
I have a question about just how this works. I mean, these are students that are, sorry, I love the idea, but these kids are enrolled in school, they have this as a class, when are they working?
Yeah, so it'll depend a lot on the student schedule, the industry area, but the vision here is that this is their most of them will be their third year. There may be opportunities for students who completed year one and are concurrently enrolled in the second year if they show that kind of leadership and understanding, right? We don't want to say to seniors, well, you didn't take a CT class in sophomore year, so now you can't do this, right? So for some students, so they will be dual enrolled in either the beginning or the advanced class. And the first part of the year, they're serving more as teaching assistants, right? They're supporting the course and they're starting to understand how are they going to get their internship. And if, in the conversations we've had with the CTE teachers, our current internship program, the students are really hand-fed their placement, right? They have a say in it, but we make sure they get a placement. They've got to go out and hustle, right? They're going to go out and find their placement, just like they would need to find a job. And so at first, it's guided classroom practice, and you'll see in the course outline how it progresses through the year from kind of more teacher-directed to very student-centered and project-based learning towards the end, where they're presenting what they learned, possibly a business plan, how they're going, kind of their culminating project. And so depending on the placement, depending on how many off periods they have, they will, like I said, begin in the classroom and then be slowly released to an internship. So it might be a day, a week during the class time. And then as their kind of comfort in terms of the partnership with the employer, with the internship host, they may be spending more time. But they have to spend an equivalent of the instructional hours, but it may not be in third period, right? It may be in seventh period because they don't have a period then, right? It may be after school because they have a full docket. And that's where kind of the creativity that Ben brought to this, because we were really struggling with, well, if you only have 5 culinary students, we can't have a whole section of that, right? And also Ben solved the problem where they're going to need to go out and visit the sites And so he said, well, why can't we bring a sub in? They can sub my classroom and I can go out and do the site visitation with the 4 or 5 kids I had. And it was like, bing, yep. And all the other teachers were said, yes, we can do that. So it was really some convincing and vision that Chef Whitten had to kind of make this work in our current construct while, keeping the instruction happening, keeping the students safe, and also kind of building that release out into the internship.
That makes sense, because then I was thinking, are you going to put all these work study kids in one class? But no, so if you want to do this for auto shop, you do it through auto class.
Correct.
If you want to do it through culinary, you do it through Chef Whitten.
Yeah, and that takes care of the credentialing problem, right? Because we're like, we can't have one work experience class serving all these different industry sectors, because that teacher would have to have a credential in all of those industry sectors, which isn't going to happen. And I know that
I just want to say, that very kind of scenario just highlights to me, the importance of this kind of work. That's all stuff I didn't learn through teaching. That's stuff I learned through catering. That kind of you have an issue, you have to solve a problem. I mean, when I go and cater an event and they forget to mention they don't have any sinks, in the building that you can use, that's a problem. But you don't get to say, have to give up, right? So that's the kind of thing that, I can now apply all of that work experience to this setting. I think that's kind of the whole goal of this, is to have our students be able to do that exact thing, regardless of whether or not they go into our fields or not.
Thank you. I appreciate the clarification. I really did read all this. I have all these questions, and it was like, how are they doing it? So thank you for the clarification. I think this is really fascinating and definitely a great opportunity for students who, again, want to sink their teeth into work. And again, maybe just rule things out, because I agree. I think that's sometimes more valuable, is to rule out the thing you worked on for all those years, and then you realize, oh, I don't really want to do this. And if you rule that out a lot earlier, you've saved yourself a lot of pain and suffering and money. And so opportunities like this are great. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I want to make a suggestion to amend if it pleases the board, to amend the agenda further and move the resolutions 11.3A and B up, maybe right after the bell schedule, just because I know there's folks in the audience here for that, and this is turning into a very long board meeting. So if we can move it up so that they could participate and be able to vote if they want, that'd be optimal, I think. I think we'll do the high school best guy. I think this is pretty quick, and then
be very long.
Yeah.
He's standing there. He's already left.
I think it's important to recognize our other CTE teachers also. So Todd Sheehy, he's our department chair, Wesley Hahn, John Chevalier, who's here tonight and back. I am Bernadette Calhoun, who does engineering. All have contributed to the development of that course.
Excellent. I really like, that's a good deal.
So as soon as I can kind of start talking through the bell schedule and then just show it to y'all. Coming on in August, I think it was August 4th that I started, I immediately heard from both staff members and parents around our bell schedule, both its dismissal time and the different times at which we dismissed. Now, part of this is due to the California state law, where high schools have to start at 8:30, which we get no exception to. In addition, part of it was just due to the way we designed our schedule, the fact that we have a 7-period day. Well, in working with the team, and I want to shout out Matthew Benamelis, who's here, who thought he was out, and I brought him back in to help a little bit more in the design. We were able to come up with an option that has a singular dismissal at 3:30 every day. It allows our students, who are student athletes, we have over 400 student athletes, to hopefully get more instructional time, which was kind of a third reason. It gives parents a single dismissal time for their students every day. And it kind of allows us to do some other cool, funky things within the schedule. So, as you can see, period 7, actually, the way we end up doing this is we go to a block schedule, full block every day, periods 1 through 6, and you switch on an A-B schedule. We all know what that means. So some weeks it's going to be A-B-A-B-A, and other weeks it's going to be B-A-B-A-B, right? 7 period happens 4 days a week. For 63 minutes, and it allows us, one, to get out earlier and allow our student athletes to miss less time. So if I'm a student and I miss every, let's say, Tuesday and Thursday, because I play softball in the spring. Now I actually get 120 minutes of instruction, where before I would be missing all of that instruction on those days, right? So that is a great positive for us. I think some of the other things is there's actually classes that fit into that shorter period a lot better. So many AP classes are built for 60 minutes, not for 100 minutes. I have taught English blocks of that length. There are also classes that do not fit into that, and we'll be working with our team to make sure that those classes don't go during that period. I don't know if you've had a chance to review it. I could continue to talk about this. I spent a lot of my time the first semester working with Mike and Matthew and others on the team to get it passed. The faculty approved it almost unanimously as a change for next year. And we're just excited to move into it and see how it helps our kids and our staff have a better school experience.
Just a clarification.
Of course.
The Wednesday is not a 3:30 day.
Sorry, yes, the Wednesday is a 2:30 dismissal that remains.
But
Yes,
no
so that's
later
for one
than
day.
3:33.
3:33, yeah, that's, and a lot of this is due to minutes, right? So you gotta have 64,800 minutes.
Yes.
And
3:33.
3:33, that allows us to get to our minutes and also make sure that all teacher minutes are the same across the year.
Yeah.
You can remember at 3:33.
That's true.
Well, within 120 minutes. Any questions about the schedule?
I think our students are going to be stoked about this too. I know the students that live in my house will be stoked about this new bell schedule.
Oh, great, yeah, I'm just gonna get them to school on time.
That's good.
Anything else?
Be here to enjoy this.
Great, thank you so much.
Thank you. Now, I'm gonna move on real quick to 11.3. Okay.
Hey.
A.
Chris, I was supposed to speak at public comment, and I was not called.
Oh, yeah.
I would like to speak to that, this before the bell schedule. Oh, no. No, you're not talking about the bell schedule, you're doing 11.3, she said.
Right, so usually public comments come after the presentation.
Yeah. Now, there's public comment on agenda items, right?
Yeah.
Agenda items, when there's a public comment on an agenda item, it goes after the presentation on the agenda item. It's separate when it's a non-agenda item. Does that make sense? It just has a different header there because you have to know to turn it part in. Yeah. Okay, so have you guys found the revision?
It'll be before there's a vote.
Okay, because there says time here.
No, it is an action item, but what'll happen is I'll present, and then any public comment can be made, and then the board's gonna ask questions and deliberate, and then they vote. Yeah. So we actually, I'm gonna just get started while they're pulling it up, but we discussed potential reductions last week. We had a special board meeting to discuss, and we went through what is being proposed in depth. I want to start by saying this is not anything any of us enjoy doing, but as one of the people in charge of the fiscal solvency of the district, we have some things that we have to do, deadlines that we have to meet. March 15th is a deadline where if we don't project potential reductions in staff, we cannot reduce staff for the next year. And so this is an exercise that we have to engage in. I will also say, you're reading a lot in the news right now about reductions happening I want to say there's massive cuts, schools closing in other districts, right? Santa Rosa is going to notice 300 people. Just today, was it today or yesterday, Bellevue School District, which is a little bigger than us, but not very much different in terms of size, 40 layoff notices going out, including their CBO, which I don't know how they're going to continue to function without CBO. Sonoma's over 60, Windsor's is in the 20s, right? So we're in a different ballpark than those. It doesn't make it any less easy for the folks who are impacted by this. I will say I have been laid off as a teacher twice, and so I know how it feels. But again, we have to project what preliminarily could be a reduction, and then we have till May 15th to figure it out and make it a final reduction. And so we are working diligently around the clock to make changes and see if there's any updates. And I'm pleased to tell you that just today I was meeting with Principal Danhausen and John Weller and Karen, and we were able to figure out that one of the folks who was going to receive a layoff notice, partial layoff of 0.2,
in math was taken off. So we don't need that anymore. We have the sections, and so that one has been eliminated in terms of a reduction. So that's a change that you'll see projected up here. Can we scroll, Laurel, just so they see the total? Another change, Director Fender announced that she's going to be leaving the district, and I have proposed a 40% reduction in that position. So that would impact whoever is coming into her position as well. So these are the certificated reductions that we have proposed. Again, it's preliminary. It's for the March 15th notice. Nothing is final in stone. But if we don't do this, we aren't able to make any reductions that potentially could create fiscal issues for the district. So again, process-wise, we do this. We notice the people that it's a potential preliminary notice. May 15th is the final. And hopefully between now and then we can bring back a number of these positions. Well, actually, now I'll give it up to Mike, who can come on and up and talk about the certificated reductions.
So I was here last week, spoke to you about the issues of the reduction of certificated positions. And I asked the board, Judy, you weren't here, but I asked the board to do a little investigating yourself, to find the numbers, to go talk to the principals, to see, is this all required, right? And I'm not sure if you did or not, I'm not checking on your homework, so that's not my job. I'm not your teacher, but you might have found that perhaps that we don't need to cut the junior high Spanish teacher because we might need more Spanish positions at the high school. You might have found that, but maybe, I don't know. I'm not sure if you did that. So, and these do seem like numbers, and yeah, there's layoffs are a bummer, right? We're basic aid district, right? So it might seem like a small thing to say 0.2 or 0.4 of a position, but 0.2 might mean that that teacher can no longer pay rent. We live in Healdsburg. That 0.4 might mean they need to go get a different job because they have a kid that, they're a single person and they're working, and 0.6 they can't live on, okay? And a 1.0 elementary school teacher, they're going to have to battle the situation where Santa Rosa's just laid off, 100 teachers. Okay, so they're going to be competing against that. So we are a basic aid district. Okay, and I do want to stress that we can offer smaller classes, and actually, so just the last meeting, Trustee Del Rey and Trustee Pagacel both said we want to support smaller classes. Okay, and actually in February's meeting, I spoke about Ed Code 41372, and I heard Trustee Pagacel say, well, we could address this issue by hiring more teachers. And then when I saw these RIP notices, I was actually surprised that we're actually going to exacerbate the issue of the 41372 Ed Code violation that we get exemption for, yes, but I don't believe we should. Okay. You're going to see that we have a reserve of 13.5%, which is roughly $4 million. So that $4 million could be paying for these positions to stay. And what's the downside? The downside is some money, but the upside is that we'd have those smaller classes that you had talked about last meeting. And we would have, smaller elementary class. But we might actually need that person. But by giving that uncertainty to that teacher, they're going to be looking elsewhere. Okay? They're going to say, this is not my district. That 0.2 that Chris talked about for math, I let that person know that it's no longer, and that was a huge relief for that person. Okay? These are people. Okay? This is not just numbers. All right? So I'm hoping that you have a fruitful discussion here, that you talk about this, and that you reject all of the reductions and say, we'll deal with the finances. The 13.5% is in line with the last 5 years of what we've seen in the March board meeting, and it's always Over the last 5 years, it's an average of 25%, which is really about $8 million of reserve. So I do believe we can afford it. I do believe this is a really tough year to cut. As Chris said, there's a lot of cuts in Sonoma County. These people that you're cutting may have to move out of the county. They have to leave their families. It's more than just a number. All right, thank you.
Any questions from the board? Yeah, we just need you to turn in part of your number in. Yeah, you can go on up. Fine.
Maria Hadley, HES. I think all of you know me. I have been the recipient of these RIF notices 7 times, and it is very stressful. And at our site, I just want to speak to our site because that's what I know best. We have an amazingly talented teacher who happens to be at the bottom of our hiring list. And if we let her go, we run the risk of losing an amazing teacher because she'll have to go and find a job somewhere else. She cannot just sit around and wait and hope that she'll be hired back. And it would be a terrible loss. We've invested a lot into this person, and we should value that. And when we have somebody really awesome, I think we should try to hang on to them as much as possible.
Questions or comments from the board? Oh, for
Did
this
you want
one?
to do this one or classified?
Oh, for class.
Okay, yeah, that's separate.
Oh, okay.
Only because being videotaped, but I know I said this last time at the last meeting, we want to keep our class sizes low, we want to maintain our teachers, we want to pay them well. We're in a situation right now, we're looking at the budget, this is not final. I've made it very clear to the public, and I Chris understands, we're looking very closely before we give any final notices. I will be voting for this with a lot of reluctance, but I think that's the way we have to go today. But I think in the future, I think we're going to be able, hopefully, we're going to be able to save some of these positions. And urging Chris, and he knows this, to do everything he can to see what we can do. And not only Chris, principals, and certainly the teachers as well.
I agree with everything Mike said, and I'll just restate what I said at the last meeting, which is just that I share the commitment to small class size. My values have not changed, do not change in this very difficult month, and it's perpetual difficulty because we don't really know how much money we have as a district until after we have made all of these projections, and so everything is has to be this kind of maximum statement, and it's really, really upsetting, and really, I feel deeply for everybody's individual financial, personal needs and choices. So I'll just say that again, this is a tough one.
I would also like to, echo what my board members are saying. I totally get, Mike, where you're coming from, and like this Mike, Vice President Mike, has also said this is a preliminary, and it sucks. Because like I mentioned at the last board meeting, but that wasn't recording, is that I'm also on the end of where the district that I currently work for, I am getting a layoff notice. So I know what it feels like to get laid off, right? And like Chris said, he's on pink slip and so forth. So I'm like, I get lucky enough to experience both ends of this, where it's like, not really, but you know what I mean. Where it's like, okay, now as a board member, and I totally agree with like what Rose said, that, at the end of the day, we just kind of hope that we find the money. And I want to echo what Mike Ephraim was saying, where, when you do get that preliminary notice, I think you want to start looking at other districts to see where you're going to get hired, because you don't want to sit around and wait to ensure that you're going to have a job by the end of the school year. So I totally get that. But I mean, this is definitely a tough decision, and I think, but like I said, hopefully just preliminary.
Yeah.
And it's a system, right? That we have this March 15th deadline that's been codified over time, and in my opinion, is entirely too early in terms of where school districts are when they're doing their finances. But if this is our deadline, so this is the system we have to work with, then it would be much easier for all of us and more humane for our employees if it was later in the year, I think. So.
I agree to a great extent in, Mike, how you were sort of characterizing this situation where it feels like we do this every year. Feels like a little bit like a game, a really not great game around making the numbers work because they have to, but real people are affected by this, and I fully appreciate that. That said, it is the reality that we as board members have fiscal responsibility. We need to meet the budget numbers. There's a lot of factors at play, and certainly I feel like this year a lot more uncertainty, right, this moment, than I certainly felt in prior years as a board member with so much change happening with regulations and funding that is literally and different announcements every day about changes and elimination of funding. So our reserves are important as a basic aid district, super important, not something we can really mess around with in this time of uncertainty. I actually did spend some time talking with Debbie and talking with Chris about, what else we looked at, what else is being done, and was very much assured that, and I really believe this, that Debbie every day is looking at the budget and looking at spending and looking at what can be deferred and what can happen now and what are the priorities, what are the expectations of our staff and our teachers and our principals, and looking at ways to cut, and that would, be maybe a little easier or more obvious, and maybe not so easy or obvious. So I know that it isn't just these cuts. It's other things that are happening in the background too. And I'm very confident that is the case. So I agree, this affects real people, causes a lot of disruption and anxiety. And then we turn around and hopefully, like past years, there's a bit more in reserves and we can pull things back the way we need to. And of course, adjust moment by moment, as we heard even with the math position, this is changing constantly. So we'll know more in May. For now, I think this is, it's something that we have to do. It just needs to be done at this point in time.
Any other questions or comments?
Right, calling to a vote.
Or we need a motion?
A motion.
I move to accept the resolution.
I second.
President Lopez Jimenez.
Aye.
Vice President Papasil.
Aye.
Trustee McAllister.
Aye.
Trustee Velasquez.
Aye.
Trustee Del Rey.
Aye.
Okay, moving on to 11.3B. Very similar resolution, unfortunately. This is, in my head, still new to have to do a March 15th notice for classified. I think we're going on year 4 of the change to law. It used to be, it actually used to be within 60 days of the beginning of school. So this is, again, much earlier than I'm accustomed to working with classified positions. It really, I will say, I'm not going to go through these line by line. I did that again last week. But especially on the paraprofessionals, a lot of the paraprofessional positions are driven by IEPs, by students with individualized education plans. And it's incredibly difficult for us to know students we're going to get, what students are going to need to have para support, which ones might move on either to a non-public school or not need the para support anymore because they've improved in their behavior. And so it makes it a big juggling game for us to be able to project in terms of paraprofessional needs. So I want to acknowledge that because they're the ones that are, they have a lot of positions affected in this reduction in terms of paras. And then there's a number of other positions as well that we discussed last week. Again, this is, like I said, it's a very similar resolution. Just a few years ago, CSEA effectively lobbied it with this legislature, and now they have the March 15th notice. So it's the same thing. It's preliminary. It doesn't mean it's going to happen for sure. We have till May 15th to have the final notices. Actually, Karen's probably shaking her head at me. May 12th this year, I think.
It's May 14th.
14th. Keeping my days confused. But we will, mid-May, we'll be making final determinations. And again, I do acknowledge it. It affects real people, and these are tough decisions to make. And so, do we have any comments? I know we had Cindy who said she was going to talk, and I think Susie wanted to talk to you. Okay, so Luca, you have cards?
Yes.
Okay.
First we have Cindy. Ricky. Oh,
Yeah, Cindy.
yeah.
This is not my forte, so
You
pardon my
hold the mic
ignorance.
down.
Oh,
Thank you.
okay. I have to tell you, first off, when we're talking about beautification and talking about improving our campuses and how they look and the pretty plants we're going to put out there, and we're talking about lives, it really stings. I've been a paraprofessional for 24 years, and I didn't plan on speaking tonight, but I felt compelled to do so when I'm looking at my colleagues. Starting to get kind of emotional. On a daily basis, we face shortages of coverage for high-need students and at-risk students, often having to pivot on a dime and maintain order and stability for the entire student population. In order to continue our momentum towards success for all, we cannot be stretched so thin. With the reduction of the behavior tech, who will be at the helm to lead us and guide us with counsel and techniques and boots on the ground? We don't have a behavior specialist, and now we're talking about reducing the behavior tech. Personally, I'm responsible for 19 transitions with students throughout my 6-hour day. I'm not alone in this. Many of other paras share the same type of schedule. During that time, things may not go as planned, and there's a trickle-down effect that impacts teachers and other students with IEPs and other staff that have to fill in our absence. Understaffing equals learning loss. Many students, especially at the elementary level, require support or outside services outside the classroom multiple times a day. They make up that classroom time with their paras in the afternoon. I can encourage you to reconsider these reductions. We're already spread so thin, and maintain the current roster. I appreciate your time, and I hope you'll reconsider.
Next we have Lily.
Hello, my name is Lily and I am a current para 2 within this school district. My comment is regarding agenda item 11.3b, and I wish to share the success story of a student I have not worked with, which highlights the critical importance of a role that is impending elimination. Once, a student entered preschool with significant challenges in verbal communication. She struggled to express her needs and emotions. She destroyed classrooms. After some time, she was assigned a paraprofessional. This intervention marked the beginning of her transformation. By the time she entered transitional kindergarten, she was provided with an IEP that included dedicated para support. Within just 1 month, she met her behavioral goals. By the end of the semester, she no longer needed a para. Not only was she able to communicate her needs and emotions effectively, but her behavior had dramatically improved. Most impressively, she developed the ability to engage in meaningful conversations with her peers, solve problems independently, and assist others in doing the same. You may be wondering what caused such a dramatic transformation. While the para played a vital role, the key to this success story was the unwavering support of our district's behavior technician. She understands that every child is unique, requiring personalized approaches to address their needs. Our behavior technician sat in chairs made for preschoolers. and took notes on the student's behavior until her hand hurt. She poured hours into making a plan. She spent weeks teaching it to the parent. With every setback, because progress is never linear, she lay awake at night thinking of new strategies. She understood the connection between a child's limited verbal communication and their frustration. Through her efforts, she crafted an effective solution, one that made a remarkable difference in this child's life. And that position may be cut. Next year, when another child with communication struggles and emotional challenges enters our district, there may be no behavior technician. Without this crucial position, that child may not receive the help they need. And I fear not only for the teacher who will be left to manage the aftermath of such behavior, but more importantly, for the child who will be left to navigate a world where they feel misunderstood. I urge you to reconsider the decision to eliminate this position. For the sake of our students, our teachers, and the future of this district, let us ensure that every child receives the support they need to succeed. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Next, we have Jenny, who's also going to speak on 13 or 11.3B.
I just want to say thank you for the paraprofessional that spoke before, and I just want to just add quickly. Hello, my name is Jenny Lopes. I have been working for this wonderful school district as a parent too since 2014. Prior to me working for Healdsburg, I've been working in Marin and Sonoma County as an educational sign language interpreter and a paraprofessional since 1997. I have had the pleasure working with, and is that okay if I say the name? I don't know if I'd be, okay. Well, working with the behavioral technician since 2018. During this time, I have seen her work hard to continue to support the students in our district. She is passionate. She has pursued to go back to school where she continued to develop her skills to become a behavioralist. She graduated from the program and continued to serve our students here at our district. Since 2022, she has been assisting in developing the district's behavioral support plans for our students who need parent assistance in the classroom. I have worked with many students that she has developed behavioral support plans for. Over the years, working within this field, having a behavior support plan and a behavioralist is crucial to help develop consistency for our students that we support in the classroom. Her ability to uniquely provide the individual support for me to implement the goals has been a true lifeline. In the last 3 years, her development of the goals and the unique data that is developed for the student has truly allowed me to implement a functional plan within the classroom. We have seen growth and continued development for the students that require these services. As a para too, her guidance and continued support has helped me to successfully see the potential growth the students can achieve. Her willingness to develop individualized plans and how she has helped me to feel confident in the plan that I help implement has truly empowered my students. Working with her has been an amazing experience in which I truly hope the district will continue for her to support our students next year. Thank you so much for your time.
Okay, questions or comments from the board?
Same comments. It sucks. I encourage our administration to look very closely to see what positions we can keep. And I know I preach to the choir, but I do need to say that I've been on both sides. I've received notices and I've handed them out, And neither side is good, but the worst side is receiving them. So hopefully we can do whatever we can to fill as many of those FTE as we can.
Great.
I just want to add that I really appreciate the public comments that we've heard in the last 10 minutes. I appreciate the personal stories and the honesty, and I just want you to know that I've heard you all and care deeply about what you're talking about. And we're just in this really difficult situation with what we're doing. So I share Mike's hope that we will be able to proceed in ways that are good for everyone by the end of the year.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
A second.
President Lopez Jimenez.
Aye.
Vice President Comisel.
Aye.
Trustee McAllister.
Aye.
Trustee Velasquez.
Aye.
Trustee Del Rey.
Aye.
Thank you.
I know that Julian, as the student trustee, is not part of the resolution, but did you want to say anything? I
think I'm going to make this part of my
Deal.
Can I suggest we take a break now and come back and do reports and then jump back into the agenda where we are? Is that okay? All right, thank you.
So you didn't use the restroom?
Come and talk to leadership if that makes any sense. What was her name? What was her name? Angel. Crystal Angel. She did a great job. She's really great.
I was
Holy cow. Yes. That's intense. It's awesome. Really, I mean, I guess my only, I was just, really, earlier when I was on the board, this is why I wanted to be a mentor of the student trustees. I just feel like this district has always been very challenged with trying to interpret student credentials and I think we're doing this, but I feel like we're never doing enough to get students involved in decision making and processes so this is, I mean, should we, like, I'm a really big fan of proactive communication and not waiting until there's a vacuum that gets filled with misinformation, and then you are in defense trying to say, well, that's not true, like, this is not the full story, because, anyway, and that said, I mean, there are resources here available to students if you have questions, if, you know,
Well, I think that with students, you have to push them. It's not this thing where you're going to be able to tell them, hey, look, we have a
fill out
board
a
meeting.
survey, so, yeah.
Part of like, not even just that, like, hey, we have a board meeting, we're going to talk about this, come support. Like, you need to come in there and you need to like go and actually talk to them and be like, hey, this is what's happening. They need to understand that. Or have some sort of email that says.
Well, so let me tell you,
communication.
what is your role in this?
Well,
Like, we've been talking about this topic for 2.5 months.
Yep. I've been
Is it our job to go to leadership and talk about this? Or is it your job to go there and pull us in and say, okay, right? Like, I'm not saying it's all your fault. I'm not saying that. But this is, we're looking for direction from you too, right? Honestly, a lot of students don't think about it. They
Yeah, no,
don't,
I agree.
right?
They don't care.
And I would hope that the kids in leadership do care, right? I mean, that would be my hope, because if you guys don't care, then nobody should.
I mean, I've been recording everything that I've been able to be, informative. So there's a very
There's like a
information. Yeah, well, not very limited, but there is everything that's made public. I can bring forward to them.
Yes, but again, we've been talking about this. This is
They had a tough year too.
third or fourth meeting that this has come up.
I brought it.
Yeah, I know. But and then, well, and I was saying, so,
but that's kind of like why.
she made a really clear comment about wanting to get more information with the budget and feeling shut out. Like the students were shut out. And that really broke my heart, because it's like, I don't know where that comes from, what happened. But whatever that happened cannot happen, because like there's no reason to shut out, like, right? Like we, like, so that was like, what's happening? Did you ask something of one of the administrators and they were like, oh, I don't have the time, or I'll get to you, or, because like that worries me, right? I mean, because I want students to get more engaged. I want you guys.
I can give you the source of that. And that's me. I've
Where are we gonna take off from?
We are going to take off at the 11.2D summer school planning. Oh, there you go, perfect. Land for 2025.
I'm wondering if we can allow the CSCA report to happen.
Yeah, we need the reports first.
Oh, yeah, all right. All right, so we're gonna start off at report. We have a HADA report. No HADA report. Do we have a CSCA report? Okay, cool. Hello.
Barely awake, but.
Susie, I'm sorry it's so late, but this is Susie Von Arts, who's the president of
Yeah.
CSCA.
I mainly am doing the report to introduce myself because some of you do not know who I am because I very rarely never attend these meetings. And I forget when I get home that Zoom is going on. But I am Susie Von Arts. I've been the president for the last few years. I would have made a comment on the agenda had I known, let me just say, if there was better communication between my members and myself. Because I didn't come last week because I sent out an email and nobody said anything to me. So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go home. So I decided to come tonight, and after meeting with Chris and leadership today, I understood a little bit more about these grant-funded para jobs. And unfortunately, it's every year. It's every year with the paras, and that's really frustrating.
Yes.
Because we have some great ones, and then, we lost one that it was tired of going back and forth, not having a job, having a job. It's discouraging, but anyway, I just wanted to say that we're looking forward to negotiations later this year, and then I'm proud of all our members and the work that they do for our students and staff. And we are an awesome group, and we will continue to be that group. And I hope to work a little more closely with you and maybe generate some, what do you say, like other people getting involved. It's really hard. It's really hard. So I'm still really unfamiliar with the way these go. So what happened just now means that it was decided, yes, I'm correct, that all this is going to be happening.
Preliminary.
Right?
Potentially.
Preliminary.
Yeah.
Yes. Preliminary, and then we will know for sure in May.
Correct.
Which is tough for people that have to wait till May.
Yep.
And Chris, if you know something sooner,
Yeah, we do
grant
tell
money
people.
comes
We
in
do.
Friday,
We
you
do.
notify people, you're not waiting
Yeah.
to like,
No, we don't hold it till May.
Thank you.
Just like evidence today with the teaching
Yes.
position that we brought back on. Right? So, yeah.
Okay. All right, well, thank you for your time.
Thank you, Susie. Thank you. All right, well, the student trustee report.
yes.
Take the mic.
Like a shoes, on the record of state, show.
I had to come.
Oh, yeah, pull the mic up.
In case anyone's still watching.
Yeah. Helps me later.
So I came here today coming with the idea of maybe, asking for some support with some Measure D type requests, but I don't think that that's appropriate right now. I think that honestly, right now I have to address, last meeting, and a lot of the decisions that were made today. I hope that last meeting, the letter that was addressed to all the trustees was received and considered in the decision-making of the proposed reductions. I understand that we have a impending deadline, but we as a district need to be better about communication with the community because the time in between releasing these possible reductions and submitting them is far too short. I know that this is a really tough time, especially since we don't know, there's a lot of uncertainty with all of our budgets and all this. But I think that we, as a district, need to be better about not only communicating with, the teachers, but also the parents, because if you inform the parents, not only just telling them, hey, this is our agenda item, we are going to be going over this, but actually like sending emails out saying, hey, this is the possible reduction that we are thinking about next year. I think we honestly have a larger turnout here today for at these meetings. And then also to the students. The students, they want to be involved. My class is really involved, really aware of a lot of the current issues, especially with, expected federal funding being reduced, as well as state. They're very informed, and they would love to be, more a part of the decision making. I love that Mr. Van Hubel is coming out, or hopefully coming out on Friday. Everyone will really appreciate that. If more of the trustees would be interested in that kind of thing, you guys would be so well received. And I think that that's just really important. So thank you.
Thanks, Julian.
Yeah.
Thank you, Julian. Thank you.
So I'm going to, hopefully, if the leadership teacher's talking with the leadership students tomorrow to make sure we'll have enough there to just have a class-wide discussion around budget. Julian and I met 3 weeks ago or so to talk through it, and that was the idea.
7:30.
They're way early. If anyone's interested, we couldn't have more than 2 trustees, but you're welcome to come with me on Friday if it's going to happen. It's not supposed to get back to me. So.
Let us know, but don't look for me.
I can make it at 7:30.
And we have a board trustee report.
I know we're like super duper short on time, so I'm just gonna say really quickly that 5th grade science camp happened. It was super, super awesome. I heard nothing but like the greatest things about it from everybody who attended on every level. I have to say I went out and volunteered for the Monday, and Walker Creek Ranch is the most magical, beautiful spot, and it was just unbelievably gorgeous and cool, and the kids had a great time, the parent volunteers had a great time. It was really great. And also the world famous Greyhound Band participated in the Festival of Wind, funniest name in the world, this morning, and performed at the Green Center at Weil Hall, and it was really, they did such an amazing job. They sounded wonderful, and then they had a master class following their performance. So those are just 2 things that I'll highlight that have been going on. It's a busy, exciting time for all of our campuses, and the students are involved in things that I think we can all be really, really proud of.
I want to add real quick, sorry, I saw you reach for the mic. Some of us had the opportunity to go to the Youth Perspectives by Lucien that happened last week, and that was super enriching to hear not only perspectives from our own high school in our district, but also what's happening around the whole district or the whole county, and what other youth in our community feel and how their school is impacting not only their well-being, but just like other things. That was a really interesting experience to have. But yes, on a positive.
I went to the DLAC meeting, and I just wanted to report out that the parents were invited to come tonight for the maps. I'm sorry we didn't get a bigger turnout, but they had asked for, more time, and Chris made a valiant effort to get the parents here. And the wellness center here at the high school is going to be doing a program on fentanyl and Narcan, and I brought my sample. I think that every household should have Narcan in their house. You never know when you might need something like that, and they are free. You can get them. Chris said you can get them at the hospital. And I know that I have a contact with Dr. Anderson, who is doing presentations all over, and who gave me mine. So we're making progress on those.
So since our last regular meeting, wellness committee meeting, making progress on the components of the updating the wellness policy that hasn't been updated since 2017. Oh, yeah. And really hoping that this can sort of evolve into a committee with a lot of parents and staff who are, are really earnestly interested in the health and well-being of our kids, and we can really set some aspirational goals around all kinds of things in our district. The good news is we're already doing a lot of great things, so just trying to get those all summed up. I was able to attend the SCO organized a tour of wellness centers at different campuses around the county, and we were the first. I didn't realize a party bus was going to pull up with like 30 people, and we were just the first stop. I was expecting like 2 people from SCO to walk in, and all of a sudden this bus pulls up. They were not partying. It was 8:30 in the morning. But it was a lot of different people from SCO and different campuses and districts. And Christina and Kim were great and did a great overview of our program, and it was fantastic. And then, Lucia also for sure. Julian and I met a couple weeks ago. We're going to try to meet more regularly, and I've also made myself available to go to leadership mornings, 7:30, definitely not my best time at all. I might just have to stay up all night to get there at 7:30. But I would be more than happy to do that, to just make sure there's an open channel of communication, and that students do not feel like administrators or school board or whatever, the grown-ups, pseudo grown-ups, are ever shutting them down when they want information or want to know more or want to discuss something. There was one other thing, but I don't remember what it was. All right.
Just real quick, we can keep giving reports, but by bylaw, if we're going to go past 9, we have to vote in an extra 15 minutes, and we can only do it twice. So it's 3 minutes. So could we have a motion to extend to 9:15, and then Julie can give us a report and we can vote on it?
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you. Sorry, Julie, to interrupt you. Go ahead.
No, all good.
Are you sure?
I mean, okay.
Sorry, who moved, you seconded?
That isn't,
Oh.
that still isn't,
It isn't 100%. It isn't 100% Friday morning. Okay.
No, it's up in the air still. I'll let you know, because I'll get it confirmed tomorrow. Okay, so it'll be the 2 of you? Okay.
Who just voted? Who moved and seconded?
To extend.
I moved.
Motioned.
Mike seconded,
Okay.
and they voted.
Okay.
I thought it was Mike, but maybe not.
Anyway, I just want to quickly thank you guys for your guys' commitment to providing more of those channels to communicate with our leadership body. So.
No, I love the interest. That's great. And you always have really good questions, honestly. Very insightful.
All right, Aaron, take it away. All right, next slide. I'm going to go real fast. This is all in your packet. Much of this is not new news, right? Healdsburg runs one of the most robust summer school programs in the county. We serve a large number of students, over 10% of high school students, and roughly 25% of our students in elementary. So I'm just going to focus on stuff that's new. This is on your packet. If you have any questions about any of this. Next slide. Oh, here we go. It's there. So, we do credit recovery. All of that's the same. New down there for 2025. We're going to run a newcomer language academy for our high school students, and maybe a couple of our older 8th graders, depending on their language level and their maturity level. So, as we've talked, we have a higher number of English language learners who are new to the country and are older. And so we hope we will invite them to take part in a 3-week language academy this summer. Next slide. those of you who've been around a while know that we've tried all different things for our middle school students. We've done Language Academy, we've done English and Math, we've done the Rise Up program, we've tried lots of different things, and it's been a tough nut to crack because middle schoolers figure out real quick that they're not getting credit and they don't have to be there. And so we envisioned this, actually I envisioned this 3 years ago, but we've been on the junior high campus for 2 years and we didn't have access to our CTE facilities here. So new for this year is we're going to invite probably about 15 rising 8th and 9th graders who have struggled at the junior high, targeting students who really just aren't into school right now and they're coming towards us here at the high school. I have at least 3 teachers who are willing to each teach a week. Ben, for example, likely engineering, likely auto, and so they will spend 1 week in each of those disciplines in order to understand a couple of different CTE opportunities. And we're gonna bake the spinach in there and teach fractions in culinary, because we're gonna do pizza this big one day and a pizza that big one day. And they're gonna learn measurement and difference between metrics in the English measurement system and auto. So we're gonna do some math and some cool stuff, hopefully without them even knowing it and having a good time. So that's new. We have migrant ed, next slide, we've done that. Again, 2 weeks, right? Last year was our first time that we were able to do 2 weeks. Wonderful Bishop's Ranch is offering us 2 weeks again, so that's a beautiful thing. Next slide. We have our summer learning that's happening at HES and FMC for our rising 1st through 6th graders. Something that's new-ish, that last bullet, is the expanded learning ELOP program. Allows us to provide free summer camp and free after the summer school program is over, right? They end at 2:30, we bus them over, but also for students who qualify, English learners, low-income students, free summer camp through the city of Healdsburg. And this is a really wonderful partnership, again, between the district and the city. Debbie and her team has got to do a whole lot of work on this because there's tons of financial requirements and documentation, but it's really worth it to make sure that all of our kids have a fun, safe place to be for up to 9 hours each day in their summer. So next slide. We provide transportation, breakfast and lunch, and facilities. Next slide. So we are in April, we're hiring teachers right now and support staff, so those positions have been flown. And in May, we'll start the enrollment process, and then in June, here we go. Next slide. Kinderbridge and TK have become part of what we do. It was a new program a couple of years ago. This is now institutionalized. We started last year with TK with just 1 day. We're going to do 2 days with TK, so it's a growing program as we learn how to do this better. And this is where we get a chance to both better understand our students' strengths and needs so we can set the classes more balanced, and also provide some parent information and training. So we do some time with the kids and we invite the parents to stay so we can help them understand how to support their children and kind of what is public school, what happens, tour the campus, a day in the life, that kind of stuff. Next slide. And that's it. Any questions about summer?
No, that's good.
Great.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, we'll go on to the next.
Thanks, Sarah.
11.2E, agreement with 6 curriculum. Am I saying that right?
Yeah, so there's no slides. We have offered free after-school care for any K through 8th and now TK through 8th for many years. There's a new funding source that all school districts can avail themselves of, this ELOP money, that is allowing us to expand our after-school and summer programs. Like I mentioned, it comes with a lot of paperwork and documenting of who's there and what programs and who we offered it to and how the money's being spent, and it has become a bear. The ACES program also, so that's the after-school funding source that we've had for 20 years, also is a bear and takes both our staff and the city staff an enormous amount of time. And so what 6 Crickets is it's a software that was designed specifically to support these 2 programs. So it was designed by an educator. She ran a K through 8 school. She had some techie friends and said, I need software. And so they built this about 5 years ago, and
It allows us to enroll students, it allows us to keep track of attendance, who's in, who's out, provide all the reporting for both attendance and fiscal that we need for both the ACES and the ELO program. This will increase our efficiency and accuracy of our reports, and I think be able to expand the program to more families because the sign-up process will be so much easier. It connects with ARIES, so information that we allow to be shared into 6 Crickets, name, address, health information, learning disabilities, will already be pre-populated in there, and a better information sharing with our partnership with the city. So this is a contract that we would like to get going so we can start using this software for our summer program. It would be paid out of the ELOP grant, so this is not general funds. This is not money that can be spent on staffing. This money cannot be used really for anything but providing support for ELOP programs. So it's not like it's money that we could use to bring back any of those positions, is what I'm trying to say. So it is an action item. Oh, next. Sorry, thank you. Discussion today, action next. Yeah.
Next time.
Yeah, next time. Thank you. All right, that's all I've got. Any questions about that? All right, thank you.
Okay, so before we go into second interim, I want to make sure Debbie has enough time to think this we do need to pay good attention to. So can we extend from 9:15 to 9:30? We need a motion, a second, and then a vote.
Moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Perfect, thank you. Did you get that, Laurel?
Got it.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. Here to present the second interim. So this is a picture of the budget cycle showing you where we are. Down the bottom left corner, second interim. Almost made it through the cycle. Next will be the.
Almost made it.
We're crawling, but we're all.
Just a reminder that the second interim is a snapshot in time. Finances have changed a lot already since I printed this. And that's just the way it happens. It's a moving target at all times. And this is July 1 through January 31. So what's new since second interim? We received our first installment of RDA money, which was $2.4 million. We received expenses, projections from the SELPA. We received preliminary cost data from NCC, which is our students that go to NCC at the Winter Unified School District. With the preliminary cost that we just received, we found out that there's a 30% increase per pupil. It's a very substantial increase. The required contribution to special education has increased. Expiring one-time funds. Budgets continue to increase due to rising overhead costs, especially with utilities right now we're dealing with. And we received the governor's January proposal. Next slide. So this slide is showing you the 24-25 January installment of RDA distribution, which is almost $2.4 million. A reminder that SCO recommends budgeting this at 50% of the prior year. In January, we already received over 100% of what 23-24's January was.
Wow.
So that's a hard thing to predict and budget in my revenues when we're told 50%. That's just a small picture of why things fluctuate so big. At second interim, we're budgeting 55.5% of the June 24 installment. I feel like this projection is very close. I've been in contact with the Sonoma County Treasurer Tax Collector, and this is what they're advising. That would be an estimate of $3.5 million with the 2 installments. which if that's where it comes in, that's $733,000 less than what we received in 23-24.
700?
700.
But RDA fluctuates. So it's the redevelopment agency. It is, from year to year, it's hard to predict. We have insider information that we can get a couple months ahead through the tax assessor's office, but it does fluctuate. You'll see it nearly always fluctuates on kind of a 3-year cycle. You can kind of see it there. So we are hopeful that some of the money lost in RDA will fall into secured property taxes. But
Which is
again,
usually what happens.
yeah, but again, we won't know that for sure until August.
Next one. So here's a picture of the unrestricted general fund. So the far right column shows you the difference between second interim and first interim. Revenues, you can see the increase. I'm projecting higher revenues than I was at first interim, based on what I know now. Salaries and benefits have gone down. I've adjusted every line item by what I had projected for extra duty, sub cost, all of those small things that add up to a lot of money. I've kind of estimated what we've used so far this year and what I think we'll need for the next few months. So I've cut back there. The biggest hit is the total contributions. It's $768,000 higher than it was at first interim. That's $5.5 million of the contribution. 1.1 of that is routine restricted maintenance, which we have to do 3%. We have no choice in that. And the rest is 1.4 instead.
Thank you.
Say that again, Debbie.
1.1 in routine restricted maintenance, and then 4.4 million in special education. That means we have to borrow from the general fund $4.4 million to cover all of our special ed costs with what we know right now.
And that, if I'm not wrong, that $768,000 change is almost nearly all encapsulated in the rising special ed costs that we had not accounted for at initial budget.
Correct.
Yeah.
So a little bit of a breakdown on that is non-public school placements is $200,000. The NCC placement at Windsor Unified, that hit us at $176,000, which we just found out. We were told to estimate off of what our 23-24 numbers were. We took back transportation this year, so we took that out, and then it came in higher than it was last year.
And you recall last meeting, that was one of the things I talked about. A lot of it is due to the fact that they are having to hire their pairs from an agency. So, yeah.
What was that number for Windsor?
170?
176,000.
How many students do we have there?
I believe 19, if I remember correctly. Yeah.
Some kids choose to go to out-of-state programs.
And the Windsor program, for all intents and purposes, is like, it's akin to an NPS, right? So it's students going who have needs that we can't meet here. So.
Another piece of that is that we've moved our elementary psychologists from Title I funding to SPED funding. It's something that should have been done a while ago. But at one time she was counseling regular ed as well, but now she's strictly doing special ed. So there's a combination of things that are rising those costs. So at second interim, I'm showing an ending balance of $810,000 with 4.3 in Fund 17 with a total reserve percentage of 13.5. Very close to what I was predicting at first interim. So you would say, why does that look so close when I just told you all of these expenses that have been added? That shows you how many reductions I've made within the budget. So there is a lot more than personnel, a lot more. Next slide.
Oh.
Just to show you.
Is this in our packet?
It's in your
It's in the packet.
Okay, I cannot find it.
Oh, wait, the slide isn't.
I only have the cover and the report, I feel.
Let me see if this is in there.
No, this is
It's
not.
not.
It's not.
See, I didn't think so, okay. I might have to stand up and stand in front of that screen.
As
you move forward.
So this is the multi-year projections, unrestricted only. A couple things to note is when you look at the 25-26 total revenues, RDA is projected very low, because I've gone back to how I should be projecting it. And then the governor's budget says we're getting a lot of dollars that we could be getting. Professional development, Prop 98, Prop 28, all these different dollars. But they're also telling the LEAs not to budget, because nothing is secured at this time. So there's a possibility of many dollars coming in, but they are not in this budget, because we don't know for sure.
And why is that?
Because we won't know until the May revise.
Because of the state budget.
Yes.
State budget.
When you look in 25-26 and you look at certificated and classified salaries, you can see how the numbers have gone down. That's reflecting the reductions that you voted on tonight. Which also means the employee benefits were down a little bit on the next line. The biggest line is service and other operating expenses is sky high. It's sky high, but yet it's 237,000 less than budget adoption. So it's hard to explain because under that object code, special ed falls in there as well. So you can't really see that we've cut all these dollars in other places because they all fall under services and other operating expenses.
So the fact that it's relatively flat is in itself.
Reflects
a sign
cuts.
that they've cut.
Yes,
Right.
yes. Small piece of that, that line item at first interim, I had $150,000 put in there set aside to purchase computers at the end of this fiscal year so teachers would have them coming back beginning in August. I have removed that. I've moved that up to 25-26. So it's a lot of that kind of juggling is what I'm doing.
What line was that in?
That's under services and other operating expenses. Our water utility is up $75,000 right now.
Oh, it's raining.
No progress with the city.
There's progress, and we're still talking about the pool too.
Just block the gate to the track in the field on the weekends. We'll negotiate.
Yeah. Pickleball.
Oh,
wouldn't
transactional.
So, you can see on the unrestricted side alone, the net was negative 4.5. I'm losing you.
I know. Gotta go.
Sorry.
I'll put you on the negotiating team.
Next slide. Okay,
So,
so this.
go ahead.
So this slide shows you how we're deficit spending. In 25-26 and 26-27, both subsequent years, we will be borrowing from Fund 17. I am not projecting to borrow from Fund 17 right now in 24-25. And if revenues come in higher and expenditures are lower, the borrowing will be less in the out years.
So I want to speak to, there was a comment made earlier that we have 13.5% reserve in this current year. That is not inaccurate. But when we are budgeting, we have to budget 3 years ahead. And 3 years ahead, we have to show higher than 3%. And if we are not higher than 3%, we are qualified. And if we do that in 3 consecutive budgets, we have state takeover, right? So we're at 4.95% on our third year out, right there, right? A little bit of a cushion, but not very much. So we've taken it right to the edge. And again, this budget reflects the reductions we made today, as well as other reductions Debbie's made on other expenditures in it. So this is how all the pieces fit together.
So we hope that we're going to get
More money.
because the board, when I was on the board last, we set that at 13.5.
13.33.
And I just had a conversation with Debbie and
Judy, can you speak into the mic? Sorry.
I just had conversation with Debbie on that. 13.33 should be raised. We should be talking about getting more, putting more in our.
We'll talk about that at a later date, but there's a definite school of thought that would contemplate that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right now, yes. Well, I think that in today's world.
Well, I was going to say that later. The headline today is the education department being cut in half.
Yes.
Federally. I don't know if Title I and all the titles are going to be impacted or not. And we have not taken out the $500,000 impact that would be on us.
No, I know.
So like there is a catastrophic potential. We joke about tariffs and everything else, but like we don't.
No,
Yeah.
no, I know, but
Yeah.
that's.
We have 10 minutes.
Yeah, I know.
Debbie, can you just,
I will be quiet.
a quickie on the 23, 24, I got from schools to the 25% actual reserve, I guess, at the end of, how did we get to 25?
So, I present the second interim right now. School year ends. We close the books as of June 30. Takes us into August sometime. Wrap up all the numbers, and then when I present the unaudited actuals in September, that's when we get the real reserve. That's when all the dollars come in. We have deferrals. I just got SPED projections on revenues a couple days ago after I've done this. So there's a lot of variables that I don't know right now. So this basically is only projecting what I know at this time.
In the last few years, we've been good on, we've had some savings in terms of we over-projected spending, but we've also been blessed with revenues coming in higher than we projected. And we hope that is the case, but it's not something we can count on because there have been years when that did not happen. So.
And we had COVID dollars that were multi-year. So if we took 3 years to spend it, that's been sitting in our general fund for 3 years. So all of that shows. It's all gone now. So I do think the revenues are conservative. I think the expenditures will come in hopefully better than what I'm projecting. But I do think it's going to be a lot tighter than spending. But it's definitely a positive certification at second interim, and it still looks good, 13.5%. Next slide. So what's next? We're going into negotiations right after spring break. Governors may revise, gather more information, continue to spend the budget wisely, begin working on the 25-26 budget NOCAP. Uncertainties, impact on property taxes. They've published that financial impact of wildfires in Southern California very likely can impact our property taxes and when we receive the money, which is going to be a problem with cash flow. State revenue forecast. They say the change in administration brings risk to state budget shortfalls, and we should budget accordingly. So there's a lot of unknowns and uncertainties. So I really feel like this is the best projections I can do at this time with what we know.
Thank you.
Any questions?
Thank you. All right, all in favor?
I'll move approval of the second
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none, nope. All right, 11.1E.
Okay, this is a more upbeat item. So this is authorization of the first sale of bonds. Debbie and I have actually been busy the last couple of weeks. So this is from Measure R. That's the measure, right? R. Yeah. But D and R are confused. D was the prior one. So this is Measure R. This is to fund the project that it'll be funding this summer. It'll fund more projects than this, but it's going to start by funding the remodel of the front of the AGS campus. So we've been in bond ratings. So we sat in on a call with Standard & Poor's last week. We're waiting to hear what our district bond rating is. Did an interview with them, and then today went through sort of a due diligence call with bond counsel and the firm that is going to actually sell the bonds on our behalf. And so this is a resolution to authorize the first sale, which amounts to $14,500,000 in bonds.
So moved. So it's, second, and then a question.
Yes.
Is this a good time to be doing this, or we don't have much choice, but is it a good time?
It is actually a good time, and I'll speak to that in a moment.
Thank you.
We don't have a choice. We need the cash to
Right.
be able to get our project done. And we've got really good people who've helped accelerate this process, so that's been helpful. But yeah, it's a favorable bond environment right now.
Okay.
All right, all in favor?
It's Reza.
Oh, okay.
President Lopez Jimenez.
Aye.
Vice President Pottsville.
Aye.
Trustee McAllister.
Aye.
Trustee Velasquez.
Aye.
Trustee Del Rey.
Aye.
Student Trustee Johansson Huber.
Aye.
Thank you.
All right, 11.1F.
Yes.
Yep.
So this is the answer to your question, Donna. We are taking bonds that were sold from the Measure D and refinancing them essentially here. So we're buying them out and then reselling them. And that is because we believe we can save the taxpayer or the community about $1.5 million doing this.
Oh, I thought this was a rollover.
No,
Like,
it's a refinance.
One of the new bond, well, the new bond was a rollover bond.
No, this is a refinance.
This is for, yeah,
Yeah.
good.
Anytime we can save it.
That's what we want.
So again, this is a resolution and we need a motion, second, and a roll call.
So moved.
All in favor? Oh, and roll call, sorry.
President.
Aye.
Vice President Pottsville.
Aye.
Trustee McAllister. Trustee Velasquez. Trustee Del Rey.
Aye.
Student Trustee Johansson Huber.
We're getting a little bit.
I have a quick question.
loops.
Yeah.
Before we- in the last 30 seconds, how do we let the community know that we're saving them money?
In the past, I've tried to get things published in the Tribune.
Yeah.
It's not so successful anymore.
Make a post.
We can make some social media posts.
You seem to
We'll do
be-
something like, thank you, and by the way, we saved you this X amount of dollars.
We can add it to the newsletters, people do read.
Yeah, we could do that, that's
Yeah.
a good idea.
Parents,
too.
players.
The old Tribune, pre-pandemic Tribune, used to actually publish articles about it. So. Yeah, that's a good word though. It's nice to let them know we're being
Yeah.
responsible.
I heard about it.
Yeah. I'm gonna propose we table the Frost Hall discussion, Frost Gym, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Just know that Judy came and was walking with the family with me. We had a good visit and it was positive, and we'll talk more about it later. Last piece of business we just need to get done. I'll just take this heavy resolution to get rid of a bunch of computer equipment that we don't need anymore. That doesn't work.
Good stuff.
Yeah, not good stuff. Yeah.
Second.
iPad 2s are, 15 years old. So,
All right. We got a second. President Lopez Jimenez.
Aye.
Vice President Pottsville. Trustee McAllister.
Aye.
Trustee Velasquez.
Aye.
Trustee Del Rey.
Aye.
Student Trustee Johansson Huber. Thank you.
All right.
any closing comments in the next minute and a half?
Nope. All right. Well, we're not going to go back to closed session. So the next regular board meeting will be on Wednesday, April 16th at City Hall. Deadline to submit agenda items will be on Monday, April 7th, and then on Wednesday, April 9th, all backup material is due.
Yep, and we have a special on the 27th.
Yep.
of March.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Like, if you could get a nameplate.
A lot, I think it's like our particular board,
Mostly you, my friend.
voted on it.
Mike, can you review that and see what it means?
Oh,
yeah, no,
It's
I was saying it was like, well, you're 4,700.
There is, I'm sure.
It's right next to the main, the conference